welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of What's Going On Here. Thank you for joining us once again. My name is Tomo Lovrik, also known as T-Love in Finnish carpentry circles. And with me, as always, I have with me the sleek, the aerodynamic, the young, the musical, the air traffic controlling like young Mr. Sean Quigley, also known as the Quig in leaf collection circles. Mr. Quigley, how are you, sir?
Very good. Very good indeed. Leaf, you're right. The leaf collection circles are very big where I live. We collected a lot of leaves over the past little while, and there shall be even more leaves where those did come from. Yes.
This almost sounded like a line from like The Lord of the Rings, and there was going to be a spell cast on me shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does. There are a lot of similarities between The Lord of the Rings and where I live.
Yes.
Some luscious green pastures, stony rocks, a significant lack of black people. Yeah.
So what you're saying is your town might be a little bit racist.
Mythical. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. MAGA. Very good.
It is. Although, no, to be fair, they're trying to be very good. And it's like, and I'm happy. I keep saying it all the time, and I feel like it makes people feel awkward because they don't realize what but like, it's weird for me because I'm not used to that. And
right.
But they recently had, we were just listening the other day, they're trying very hard, my town. They had a town Zoom meeting to talk about what they can do to try and diversify and like work towards, improving biases or all the things that, you hear.
Sure.
People trying to do right now, which obviously is amazing. But you log in and it's like 34 old white ex-librarians and the one black guy in town who's just like, one dude who they keep going back to like every segment. They're like, so what do you think about that then, Eric? Are we can we try that? You got any more ideas?
Can we use that word? No, you can't use that word, man. Nice. And with us, as always, we have the third leg of this show, our youthful tripod, if you will. The man that makes our show about 33% watchable, whereas we weren't before. Young Mr. Andrew Albagees, also known as AA in camera tripod manufacturing circles. How are you, sir? What's going on, Andrew?
I'm good. Just, despite everything happening this year, there are so many people that still want their cameras stabilized. And there's nothing like a three-legged tripod for that. They've tried other things, but tried and true. And you know what? People keep buying them. And so business is great. And we're just pleased to be able to offer this honest service to folks. And I'm personally pleased that for the first time in 3 or 4 podcasts now, I think I came up with a good fucking response to your intro this time. So there it is. I'm back, baby.
Ooh, you're back. We're very proud of you, Ed. It's the little victories this year, folks. It's the little victories. So for those of you that don't know, what we do on our show is we find a subject that is of interest in the popular culture zeitgeist, and we try to break it down and figure out what's going on here. Today's episode is very specific because today we are covering the new Borat movie, or as it's officially called, the Borat Subsequent Moviefilm, Delivery of Prodigious Bribe to American Regime for Make Benefit Once Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. Or, if I should say correctly, Borat Subsequent Moviefilm, delivery of prodigious bribe to American regime for make benefit one glorious nation of Kazakhstan.
Very nice.
Very nice, Alex. There will be a lot of obnoxious Borat imitations in this episode. I see it already. And now the other part of our show that we love to do is we like to review adult beverages of all sorts. We're mostly beer heavy, but lately we've been delving into spirits. If you listen to our last podcast, we reviewed Dewar's whiskey, which was a very nice, smooth whiskey. And today, because Borat is always seems to peel back the cover, if you will, the duvet of America to reveal what's underneath, we decided to go with the most American drink we could think of. And is there really anything more American than bourbon? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
So we found a bourbon to try. And today we are going to sample Elijah Craig 1789 small batch straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey. This is a 94 proof or 47% alcohol by volume bourbon. It is aged in first to char oak barrels. Okay, it's made in true small batches for balance and smoothness. And this bourbon is distilled and bottled by the Elijah Craig Distillery Company from Bardstown, Kentucky.
Oh, baby.
It has an absolutely gorgeous amber color. I like the bottle, and I like the fact that it has a cork in there. It's very kind of snazzy.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say it's a very reasonably priced bourbon. This isn't a bank breaker by any stretch of the imagination. So, gents, I think what we need to do is give the crowd what they listen for and the opening and pouring of our beverage, shall we?
All right. I'm going to grab my glass.
Oh, yeah, go get your glass. I'm going to see if the cork makes it. No. Sean, any luck on the noisy cork? Anything? No. The cork opens up very smoothly, not much of a sound. So let's see if we can get some glugs here. All right, here we go. I'm having my first sips of it neat. I've never had this, full disclosure. And like I said, this is just a gorgeous looking bourbon. All right, folks. I'm going to try mine neat later, and then I have my giant ice cube for the next pour.
All right.
Gents, cheers, gents. Where's Sean going? Oh, for a second, I thought he was getting naked. I didn't know what was happening. All right, cheers.
Oh, man, that's good. That is good.
Okay. This is it has a very nice flavor, but it is a bit on the harsher side. It's not as smooth as a Dewar's. Now, granted, it's bourbon and not whiskey or scotch.
Yeah,
But-
well, and that Dewar's too is like an 80 proof. This is 94.
This is true. Yeah, this is a stronger batch, but it is nice. It is.
Oh, 47, yeah.
It's very rich. Very nice flavor.
Great flavor.
Yeah, very nice
Yeah.
flavor.
I like the aftertaste is quite smooth, and it's quite sort of vanilla-y, caramelly. It's quite sweet. I like that. The first taste, it like brought me like right back to being a teenager
Trying, yes.
trying to swig Jack Daniels like Slash and being violently sick. And I've not had bourbon since I was a teenager getting sick from Jack Daniels. And because just the taste of Jack Daniels, like, I haven't had Jack Daniels. I haven't even had, like, you know, Jack Daniels flavored like barbecue sauce or anything, because just the taste of Jack Daniels brings me back to those.
Yes.
You know, when there's a taste that you associate
The
with being
smell
really sick.
associated with it, yeah.
And so I've not had bourbon at all. So I was like, well, we'll see what this is like. And I'm smelling it. I'm like, And then when I tasted it, the first sip was like, that's the same thing.
Yes.
But afterwards, it's not. It was different on the back end, but the first sip was very similar to Jack Daniels to me.
Yes, like you said, like you pointed out, Andrew, the 94 proof kind of took me a little. It was like, ooh, yeah.
So it definitely has got like a good bite when you first.
It definitely has the bite, but it does have.
It's got a very smooth finish.
Yeah, very smooth. Yeah.
And you guys know this, and if people are regular listeners of the podcast, they may know this. I probably mentioned it once or so when we were. What did we do when we did Tiger King, and I was drinking my Wild Turkey. That I'm a big bourbon fan, and I've tried quite a few bourbons. But believe it or not, I've literally never tried Elijah Craig before this. Mm-hmm. Other than I snuck a swig before we started today. But other than that, no, I've never had it before. And I'm very pleased with it. And I'm excited to be drinking some bourbon tonight.
Yeah. You know what? Like I said, even like now after like 2 or 3 sips, it's already easier. It was first, I think it's that extra proofage there, the extra alcohol that kind of like, kind of takes you aback a little bit because you're not ready for it. Because I guess because of the tannins from the oak barrels or whatever, that's that extra thing. Because like when I was in college, like drinking 151 was really nothing to me. I didn't think anything of it. Like Bacardi 151, it's just like that's just stupid. It's like, who drinks that unless you're like looking for a death wish? But that was me. But the finish is really nice, and I mentioned this to the guys earlier. You might hear some crunchy sounds because I have some Toblerones for like candy for tomorrow because the nephews are coming over. We're carving. And I can tell you from experience, chocolate and like bourbon or whiskey go really well together. In case you've never done it, they go really well together.
That's the craziest pronunciation of Toblerone I've ever heard.
Toblerone?
What did you say? You said like Toblerone.
Toblerone, yeah.
Toblerone.
Wait, how is it? How are you supposed to say it?
I mean,
it's Swiss, so it's probably Toblerone.
So yeah, as pretentious as possible.
Yes,
sounds right.
But this is Nestle, so this is also Swiss. So
yes,
crunch.
But relating to your story about the Jack Daniels, I had a friend of mine that I used to work with, Brian. We all called him the GOAT. He had his similar experiences with tequila, which he still to this day cannot drink because when they were in college, somebody was doing tequila and somebody was trying to there was somebody who was trying to start a barbecue or something, and they were already really lit. And somebody put tons of lighter fluid all over the place. You do a shot, and apparently the whole thing he didn't see that somebody had already put a ton of lighter fluid on the coals, and he put a ton of lighter fluid on the coals and he lit it, and this whole thing went right after he did a shot of tequila. And so he said now every time anyone like tequila is in front of his face, he just gets the taste of lighter fluid in his mouth and he starts to like dry heaving. He can't do it because the smell, what you were saying, is so intense that it's just like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. So.
And it's science. I mean, that's a real science. I was listening to someone talk about that recently on NPR. There's so much of our brain is tied into
olfactory.
Our taste and smell, especially taste and smell, more than hearing and sight, taste and smell, because it's your most base instinct. Like, I guess, like, if you can't see or you can't hear, like, this sense of, like, this is danger, something bad happened, like, it just, like, sticks in your brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And my first Toblerone is done. Oh, yeah. With the bourbon, that is some nice stuff. My Toblerone. I will pronounce it like I'm back in Croatia. Mogli dobiti jedan Toblerone, molim vas lijepo. So.
Very nice.
Very nice. High five. Nice segue into Borat. That's how I like.
USA Day.
So yeah, let's talk about Borat. We all watched Borat.
Borat.
It's not creating, I don't think, the buzz that the last one did. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that it's not in the theaters.
Yeah, and there's so much else going on right now that it's just one little thing that happened in the whole sphere of the world we live in today.
Yeah.
But I've seen quite a bit about it in the last. Well, we're recording this on a Friday, I believe. Correct. Came out last Friday, right?
Sorry, you froze up a little bit for me.
Yeah.
Oh, to lose you guys.
Came out last Friday. Yeah, it came out last Friday. It was like a week ago.
Yeah,
from now.
From today, yeah. We're recording today. This is the Friday before Election Day in the U.S. So Election Day in the U.S. is November 3rd.
And for those of you listening after that, the U.S. is a country that
used to exist.
U.S. of A.
It's hard to explain.
Yeah, exactly.
But after the revolution that ensued, and the uprising and the militias that took to the street and the great separation,
what? I will endeavor to have this episode out before Election Day, just so that it's like very timely and people can hear about Borat. And very nice, I likes. I sell my daughter $500 for a daughter. Yes, you're my best friend.
You should be in Borat. You really should.
I should totally be one of his brothers. You make me so ashamed. I changed my name to Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you.
Yeah. No, but yeah, you're perfect for it. You'd be like the butcher in the village.
No, I want to be the guy who's taking the temperature in the mouth.
Oh, God.
Yes. I will say this. Just like with the first one, I'm not that big a fan of cringe humor. Mm-hmm. Like, when it happens organically, it's funny and both people are surprised. But when one party is planning it and the other party is unaware, it's like my base instinct is like, don't do that. That's messed up. That's like, it's a little bit almost like bullying. You know what I mean? Even though he's not forcing anybody to do anything, but it's a little bit like you're kind of leading people down a primrose path. So there were still parts of it that were so cringeworthy that I still laughed my head off because I couldn't believe that they were doing it. And I will say off the bat, the actress, and I forget her name, I should have looked that up before we started, I guess, who played his daughter and was supposed to be 15 years old, and she's actually a 24-year-old actress. She was the star of the movie, more or less.
She was amazing, yeah.
She was fantastic in the movie. And so the movie starts off with Borat. It talks about basically having the first Borat movie, which came out, 15 years ago? Is it?
Yeah, it was 2006.
Oh, okay. So 14 years ago.
14 years ago.
He talks about how he basically put Kazakhstan to shame, and because Kazakhstan was shamed because of his bungling in the first movie, he got sentenced to prison. And then the premier basically let him go to deliver a present to Mike Pence. And it was supposed to be like a Kazakh monkey that does a TV show. And I forget what the monkey's name was. And he came home, and his sons were all ashamed of him. And the one son's name was it Jeffrey Dahmer that he said? And he was so embarrassed that he changed his name to like Jeffrey Epstein instead. Or was it something else? Or was it somebody else? It was some other scandal.
I remember, yeah.
And so his sons reject him. His wife doesn't want to talk to him. And he finds out he has a daughter. And there's this whole like sub-genre that in Kazakhstan, they keep their women in cages. And then they ship them off to whoever's to be married and whatever. And he sees his 15-year-old daughter, and it's this actress. And he says, "You must be the oldest unmarried woman in Kazakhstan." And she's 15, which is just so stupid. Being somebody who comes from, a third world country and sees shit like this, these are things that you laugh at and at the same time infuriates you because you get stupid people that comes like, "Oh, is it true that all the girls like get married by the time they're 12? No, it's not at all. It was a fucking joke, you moron." So I can see where the Kazaki people will really just like, if they ever see Sacha Baron Cohen, they will, put his testicles in a vice.
It's so funny to me because it's so, at its heart, it's so British in that, like, this British people have been doing this, I mean, forever, but certainly like just belittling other countries for our own amusement, whether it's like colonizing them or just making a film. Like, it's so, like, if it was American, if he was an American comic or it was a fully American thing, then there would be like a darker edge to it. Like, it would be a little bit more like, there would almost be like an international, like, oh, you can't, like, remember when Seth Rogen did the movie about North Korea and it was like this huge thing?
Right.
The second America starts poking fun at a country, like, it's a big thing. Like, a British guy does it and it's kind of like, I'm British, because then he just has to go on a show and he's like, like, blah blah blah, I went to Oxford University, and everyone's just and they're like, oh, he knows what he's doing, it's fine. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. My wife and I just watched literally minutes before. It was something online about Sacha Baron Cohen and how he approached the whole thing and how he's a traditional clown. And they broke down when the clown started, and they showed they talked about the whole Commedia dell'arte from Italy, and it started during the Renaissance, and Shakespeare picked up on it, and then it broke down because Sacha Baron Cohen went to this very, prestigious performing arts school in Paris that's known for its basically clown school. And like
Jacques Lecoq.
Yeah, right, exactly, in the vein of Jacques Lecoq, and the whole idea was basically that the clown is not necessarily somebody that's mean or tries. The clown is stupid himself or herself, and because of that stupidity, is able to insinuate him or herself amongst the powerful and the rich without ever causing any kind of offense. And by playing stupid, you basically go and elicit these responses from people, because they were basically talking about like how he started with Ali G, and he was basically getting all these like upper crust British royalty and nobility and from the House of Lords that tried to get in touch with the common youth, and they would say stupid shit, and he was just like, right, what if we do it that way? And they were like, well, I could see and not just with the British, he'd come to the U.S. and do it like with these politicians and get them to admit stuff or say shit that you're just like, what the hell is going on here? And so like the whole point was basically that the clown is almost a little bit like your Jiminy Cricket, right? Like in Disney. The clown is the conscience and is just basically opening a pathway for you to either say what you feel or to come up with something very insightful. And basically that's the background for Borat. And they were basically showing how he, with the Ali G show, with all the characters he did, and Bruno, and they were covering all the things with Bruno. Like one of them was as Bruno, he was covering a fashion show, some fancy fashion show, and some woman, I don't know who she is, some designer, she literally made a line of clothing like Derelict from Zoolander. And it was literally, I think it was called like White Trash Line or something like that. And so he said, do you think, as Bruno, he was like, do you think these white trashers will be able to buy your clothes? And she was like, no, I don't think they can afford it. He was like, oh yeah, because they're so poor. And it was like that. And she was like, yeah, no, they can't afford that. And it was just like, basically just pointing out all these just ridiculous views that people have about society and life and all these things. And
it's interesting. It's funny. I can see what he says about the clown stuff. Like Borat, what he's doing, there's roots in clown, but it's not. It's weird. He's like treads between it's clown and it's satire in a very British way. That's not clown because we studied clown at drama school,
right?
And it was the most infuriating class because no one could ever figure it out. And we didn't realize until the end of the course that basically the whole point of why we were so infuriated and why we can never get it right is the teacher's whole point is that is the clown. Like, you don't get it right ever. There's no getting it right. It's constantly striving to try and get somewhere and never getting there. So we spent the whole year of every time you'd get up and you'd do something, and all you'd have to do is you'd put a clown nose on and he'd have you do something. He was like, "Go do something." They were like, "Just go sit on that chair," and then you'd go and do it, and then he'd be like, "Yes," and he'd be like, "Very good, perfect, sit down," and then he'd pick on someone else and he'd say, "You go do that," and you go do it, and you try and do basically the same thing but maybe a little different, and he'd go, no, that's not clown, that's something else. That was his catchphrase. His catchphrase was, "That's not clown, that's something else." and that was it, and that was basically the class, just getting shouted at by this man. And then people and then people are like, "What? I'm confused." And then we realize afterwards that basically the whole point is like when you're shouting at, and then the look of the actor with the nose on being like, "What did I do wrong? I don't get it." He's like, "No, do something else." And then they'd try and do that. And he'd be like, "No." And he'd be like, "Uh-huh." And they're like, "That was clown." You're not judging. The clown is non-judgmental. He doesn't judge anyone. He doesn't see status. He's just trying to fit in, and he's trying to just go a lot like Charlie Chaplin, the classic.
It's
the guy who's trying to fit in the environment, but he doesn't judge anyone. He's completely unjudgmental. Whereas Borat, on the other hand, is like, exactly. He is a man who is very well aware of the dumb idiots he's speaking to, and the audience is very aware that he's aware, but they're not aware. So he's kind of he's like. It's like an inverted clown at times. It's very
Borat as a character, right? That character is not aware. So in that sense, he is kind of like the clown.
Yes,
Borat, the character is not innocent, but in the way. So
if we didn't know, right? If we didn't know,
but we know that's the thing with these movies is like the movies are almost like threefold of like complete fiction. Or like the in between that is kind of like what's really happening, which is like some of it's scripted and some of it's actually happening, and then the third fold being like real life. And it's like this weird blend of all of them. And I even like in watching it. So I watched it last night. Was having moments where I'm like, I don't understand which parts are scripted and which parts aren't. And there are parts that I don't think are scripted, but I really wished they were, but I'm sure they're not. But that's,
I mean, speaking from doing improv and things like that, and kind of like with the multiverse series, right? I think it's a little bit like pro wrestling. Like, look, this is what needs to happen in the beginning, and this is what needs to happen at the end.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what's written in between. You just go with it. And whatever comes out, comes out. And I think in terms of Borat, the movie, I think the interactions between him and his daughter, that was kind of like semi-scripted, I'm guessing.
Right.
I'm guessing they just kind of just riffed and improved off of each other.
Right.
And what happened with people is what happened with people. Now, that being said, the movie is heavily edited.
Yeah.
We don't know whether there were multiple takes. We don't know whether they tried to go back. And I mean, because a lot of that, and my wife, we watched it last night too, and my wife was even saying... My wife, she likes, she don't like Borat very much. She liked Borat and Cage better. Afterwards, I go and me and my wife have sexy time until sexy time. But... It was one of those things. It was basically you couldn't really watch it. Like I said, like I was saying earlier, his it's more cringeworthy because he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
if this was just like a complete improv and he just went up to people, it's a little bit like on The Daily Show when they have, I don't know if you ever see Jordan Klepper. He had a show for a while on his own, and he goes out to all the like Trump rallies and he interviews people. And, that's a little bit, that's kind of like what Borat does, but his is completely like, I don't know what these people are going to say. I'm just going to ask them questions. And on one of the recent ones, it was just like last week, I think, he went to a rally, and a dude said he's never done better business-wise than since Trump has been in office. And he said, well, what do you do? And he said, I'm a debt collector. And Jordan Klepper literally like doubled over laughing, like hysterically, like, okay, all right, yeah, I see why you think this is like a great economy, because your business has tripled because, COVID came and whatever else. So that's where my problem, even with the first Borat film, was there. It's like, if he just went out there and he just hung out with people and just like did stuff, is like, okay, but he kind of, which he does, but he, at the same time, he's just kind of like just urging them to be bad. He's on your shoulder. He's like, oh, you want to talk about Jew? Let's talk about Jew.
Right. And he definitely, he goes to the right people to get the right reactions, or it's edited well enough. I mean, how many people do you think he talked to when filming this that is not in the movie? You know what I mean? And what do they keep that they don't keep? But on your note about it being cringeworthy, I feel like it makes it more cringeworthy. Like you were saying before, Sean, that like we're all kind of in on it. Like if it were just a fictional movie with this stuff happening, you'd be like, oh, I don't know. Like parts of it are hilarious. They really, like
right.
movies,
Yeah.
Parts of it are fucking hilarious. But there are other moments that are like you said, just like cringeworthy humor. If it was just a fictional movie, there would be cringeworthy moments. But knowing that not only is it a cringeworthy moment, but it actually happened in real life, and the reactions you're seeing from these people are real life reactions who didn't know they were part of a movie, makes it all the more cringeworthy.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing to point out to people. And obviously we're going to have to, when we put it out on social media, we're going to have to warn people that this is a lot of spoiler alerts here for the movie, not to listen to it until they see the movie. But it's interesting because at the end, if you look at the credits, they list basically all the people that show up in the movie, right? Because for legal reasons, they have to get their approval. So after they shoot all the footage, they basically have to be like, listen, we're doing a movie. Are you okay with this? Because like when he was at the rally where he was looking for Tutar, his daughter, there was a lot of faces that were blurred out, including a couple that were like Sieg Heiling, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, oh, yeah, it's like, oh, you don't want it to be on camera? Then maybe you shouldn't be Sieg Heiling, you stupid shit. But, you know, it's like, but the face was blurred out. So,
but I have to wonder how do they approach these people? Because it blows my mind how few people's faces are blurred out in this movie. And I know that, so there was, I don't know if you guys saw any of the news and the coverage about the woman who is the babysitter that babysits his daughter. I don't know if you saw much about that, but she had kind of spoken out saying she felt like betrayed or something because she was told she was part of like a documentary film crew and she really thought this was a real girl. And she said she was like worried about her for weeks and was like praying for her because she was worried that her father was like going to sell her away and blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, legally, how can they get people to like sign a release to be in the film? But then at the same time, like this woman had no idea she was in this film.
Well, I'm sure they just don't read I'm sure they don't read the release.
Right.
Because who does? I'm sure the release says in it, it covers all the legal bases. They just don't, they tell them one thing and they say sign the release and they just sign it.
Right.
That's what it is.
This is right. You can, and in all of these things, it's like, and Sean, because you recently went through it, like buying a house. They give you a freaking 50-page thing that says like, oh, read this. And it's written in the most convoluted legalese, which basically all of it basically says, we are covering our ass in case anything happens to you, or in case you think that you're going to get more money out of us because fuck you, no, you're not. So we're covering our ass, and it's literally 10 pages in different variations of we are covering our ass. You cannot sue us. We are covering our ass. You cannot sue us. We are covering our ass. By the way, you're going to be in a Borat movie. We are not. We are covering our ass. You cannot sue us. We are covering our ass. And the print is fun. It's literally like you're reading, like prepping for an exam, to like an SAT or something. You're just like, I can't read all of this shit. Okay, I'm okay with it. And you have a lawyer on your side, they have a lawyer on their side, and your lawyer is also like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You just sign it. You'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And probably the big crowd scenes, like the rally style thing. I imagine there was probably just a poster up saying like, by entering in here, you're consenting to filming, and then that's all you need to do. And then the people that are blurred out are probably the people that actively, after the fact, said, "I don't want," it, and then they blur them out.
Or they didn't even approach them to get it, because there was one guy in particular when he started singing, they kept on cutting back to him, and if you like watch the movie, he'd go like, "Yeah." And same reaction. And I think they had him like 3 or 4 times where he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, he didn't react that way the same time. They just used him. It's like when you're an extra on one of these sets. If your hand is in there or whatever. I've done the, what's the TV show? Oh, Mysteries at the Museum. And I've seen like my hand in episodes that had nothing to do with what I was there with. Like literally, like I've seen like my hands and like my gloves. And I'm just
Michael Jackson story.
Pretty much. Like completely off and just like freaking out. And like my wife walks in, she's like, "What's the matter?" I was like, those are my hands. I remember because it was cold as ass that day. And they asked me to stick my hands in a freaking little stream over there. And they just use it. Whatever footage they have, once they have it, if they can use it and put it in the edit, they will use it. They don't particularly care. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so back to the plot. Let's go over the plot before we like get any further into discussion. So Borat is basically brought before the premier of Kazakhstan and told that he will be forgiven if he delivers this monkey to Michael Pence.
Michael Pence.
Michael Pence. Yes, exactly. Which we'll get to that later, because that one in of itself was like so just hilarious. And so Borat says like, "I just have to deliver this and it's great." It's like, great, yes. And in the capital, they basically give him an injection to kind of immunize him against anything, right? And then they send him off. He goes home. His sons reject him. The one son,
is it gypsy tears?
That's right, gypsy tears. That's what it was. Thank you.
An injection of gypsy tears.
His brown liquid.
Listen, you cannot appreciate how racist that is unless you're from Eastern Europe. You just cannot appreciate the racism of that. The casual racism of that in Borat is so bad. It's literally if he was dropping N-bombs all movie long, that's how bad that was, okay? Anyway.
You can get away with that in England. That's one of the reasons I think the gypsies, like from the original Borat, like that's like one of the most accepted like racist things. I mean, probably anywhere, but certainly in the UK, like the majority of people in Britain will outwardly speak against gypsies and have no problem with it.
No, exactly.
No problem.
Like in the 80s when you were a kid, they would speak about Packies back in the UK. It's like, oh, fucking Packies. Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing. It's very, and I think the main reason is, unlike other groups like Pakistani or Indian, is that it's so fully ingratiated now in the UK that's when it gets weird. It's like, wait a second, these people are my, like these are in my class.
They've been here for generations. Yeah.
When it's the neighbors down the road who've just immigrated here and we don't know them, that's when that stuff happens. But then 2-3 generations down the line, you're like, we've known this family my whole life. Like this is weird. But gypsies, they're like, no. Gypsies, no. There's no one. There's no one who knows any gypsies.
This is a conversation I had with my wife earlier this week, talking about the whole Trump election. What if Trump loses? Do we want to leave the country? And I said, well, why don't we just move to Dorset, where you grow up in Weymouth, down there? And she's like, oh, to Britain? And I said, yeah. Oh, so I could. And for those people that don't know, my wife is biracial. And she says to me, I almost crashed the car because I was laughing so hard. She's like, oh, so we can move in there, and all I can hear is like, ow, you're such a pretty color. And I was just about to crash my car laughing. This casual British racism that happened in town. And I was like, yeah, because that's what people are, because they don't think when they talk. They just don't. People are awful.
Oh, yeah. That's very British. Yeah. You just get someone be like, oh, I love your hair. Like,
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. That's very nice, yeah. Anyway, so Borat is going to America. So he goes to America. He's expecting the shipment. He picks up the monkey. It's in a trailer. It's in a box. He opens up the box, and there's a guy opening the box for him. And in the box is his daughter with, supposedly dried blood around her mouth, and she ate the monkey while in transit. Which is so stupid on so many levels. As somebody with a degree in biology, it would have been the reverse. A day and a half into the trip, that monkey would have eaten her. She would not have eaten the monkey.
But this monkey's like a journalist.
Yes, that's right.
He's an actor, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
an adult film star.
Was he an adult film star too? I forget.
Yeah. Wasn't that what was insinuated when they showed his movie, that it was like a porno?
I can't remember.
I think so, yeah.
So our first U.S. victim, besides the guy who opens up the crate, Borat goes to a photocopy place, like a Kinko's, but it's like a small business owner. And he goes there to fax, mind you, a letter to the premier to tell him that the monkey's dead. And
this poor guy.
And he said something, and he made either some anti-Semitic or anti-Gypsy remarks, so like kill all the Gypsies, high five, and the dude high fives him. And it's one of those things where it's so socially speaking, it's so horrible because they just paint broad brush strokes on these people. And I'm like, he probably didn't even understand half the stuff coming out of the guy's mouth.
Right.
I looked at him because they were in the South, because I think they were they in Galveston, Texas or something like that?
I think so. That's where at least you're led to believe that, right?
Right. And
this is why they don't ever do this in New York.
Yeah.
This is why Borat would not work in.
Well, he was in New York in the original at the beginning, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that was different. That was just him being like.
Well, he was brand new on the scene.
Yeah,
he was brand new on the scene. It's like any of these movies, like when Mark Hamill talks about when he first did Star Wars, and he said he'd walk around forever until the movie came out, and then it was like, what the hell? And he said when he even got the script, it was like the goofiest thing he ever read. And then look at it 2 years later, even what it was. It was
yeah.
It's just one of those things. But they even show it in the beginning. He tries to go walk around the U.S. and everybody's recognizing him. Because, not only is Borat very distinctive looking, Sacha Baron Cohen is really tall. He's like 6'5" or 6'6" or something like that. He's like crazy tall. So, of course, people and of course, he's walking down the street and some random dude is in shorts. He's like, Borat, I like. So he's like, no, I'm not Borat. That in itself was hilarious. Because guys running after him, and they had guys like, "Oh, I'll give you $1 if you just say I like." So he's like, "No, I'm not Borat," and he's running down the street in underwear. It's like
I do think I think it was a clever way of making that work within the world of the film, while also working in real life with it still feeling like weirdly organic. I thought he did a really good job with that.
Yeah, no, he did great with all the disguises. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really helps that he's really good with the accents, because when he first started that sing-along at the rally,
Yeah.
he did a Southern accent, and he was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so Borat goes to the fax guy, and then, and of course he sends a number, and the guy gets a number back. He says, like, if you don't deliver, we kill you. It's like, oh, man. So Borat somehow talks his premier into letting him gift his daughter to Michael Pence as a gift. So then the first thing they have to do is, because it's his daughter, is find her a cage. And she's all excited to have a cage of her own, which is just stupid in of itself. So they go to, I think it was like a barnyard and like livestock place where he was buying the cage. And then he was, of course, doing the whole, will this gas cylinder be enough to kill like 12 gypsies in a room and shit like that. And it was just awful. And the guy was like, without batting an eyelid, he was like, sure. You know?
The best part of that was with the when he brought his daughter, and he was with this guy looking at the cages, and there was like the big, like the nice one. And he was like, how much? And they told him like $900 or whatever. And he's like, no, too much. And then she's like, Daddy, like, please. And he's like, oh, daughters. He's like, teenagers. Like a dad buying his 16-year-old a new car. And the guy's just like, uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. And he's got like a Nissan, whatever it was, S2000 pickup truck that he's pulling a trailer that he sleeps in, and then the cage is attached to it somehow inside. So he buys the cage. She sleeps in the cage. And mind you, the daughter has crazy wild hair. She's got a little thin mustache that they have on like her upper lip. She's a mess. She looks like she literally just like slept in the subway for 3 months, and this is her. And so he says, okay, you're a big gift, and she's all excited that she's going to be gift, because that's the other thing.
Oh, this is great.
They show the cartoon that she's watching.
When she's in Kazakhstan in her cage.
In Kazakhstan,
she's watching on a little TV like a Disney princess movie.
Yes, and it's Donald and Melania. And this was, I don't know who the fuck did the animation on this. It was absolutely brilliant, with Donald getting a boner. And they basically did Cinderella, but with Donald and Melania. And that's her aspiration in life, is to be the next Melania. Because she's from Slovenia, and that's close enough. And it's like, no, it's literally a continent away. Slovenia is nowhere near fucking Kazakhstan. But okay, it's for American audiences. They're stupid. They don't know geography anyway. So, where was it? Oh, so then they're in the U.S., and they say, I'm going to make you into a pretty thing. And they literally take her to an Instagram influencer, and her name was like Macy Chanel or something like that. And we're watching this part. I think it was Macy Chanel, Chanel. I don't know if you want to hit that up while we're yapping here, Andrew. And she's telling her how to be a sugar baby. And she's like, sugar baby? And the actress says, I can open beer bottle with my vagine. Or was it like the anus? I didn't get which one. But she literally sticks a bottle up there. And the girl, she's like, no, you see, that's exactly, you should never do that in company again. Because she opens up a bottle. And as this girl is telling her how to behave, and she's saying, you have to be submissive, you have to be whatever the guy wants you to be. How old are you looking for? And she says, near death. She says, okay, you're going to want somebody who already had a heart attack. And she's coaching her on this. And my wife is watching. She was like, is this girl for real? And so, of course, I go online. I'm on my phone, and I look it up. And I'm like, yep, she's an Instagram influencer. She's literally has an account and tons of followers. And we're both sitting there shaking our heads like, wow, I cannot believe this is a thing. But that being said, she's an Instagram influencer. She's probably so excited to be in the Borat movie.
So I was just looking her up while you were talking, and the first thing I found was an article saying that she accuses Sacha Baron Cohen of misleading her. And I'm just glancing through it. I haven't read it in specifics, but it looks like she's saying she knew she was working with an actress. Like she wasn't completely duped like some of these folks. But she was led to believe it was like a Netflix show. And I think what I'm gathering from it, just from glancing at this article, she feels like she was playing a character. And now in the movie, they're saying that's how she is in real life. And people think she's like an idiot. But she was like, no, that's not really me. I thought I was in a Netflix show.
And you know,
but who knows?
And you know what? To be fair to her, to be fair to Macy, we all know what these quote unquote reality shows are. And we've talked about it enough on the show. And Sean has brought up Big Brother enough in the UK, where it's a boring fucking season. And then they go and get like 600 pounds worth of liquor. And there's like, oh, let's have a party and see what happens. And it's just like, let's just create bad shit. Half of the reality shows are, I should say probably 90% of the reality shows are scripted. People who think they're not are just out of their minds. They're just like, this is what's supposed to happen. Make shit up. Just go. It's like wrestling. We know what happens at the start. We know what happens at the end. Make shit up in the middle and off you go. And so if she's saying that she was onto it, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't.
Well, but not that she says she was duped. Like, so she was led to believe that it was a scripted thing and she was like in character, but she said she didn't read the fine print. And yeah, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I again, to me, that's one of those like, all right, I'll take her word for it. But I mean,
it's not going to do her any bad press. I don't think she would care.
No.
Yeah, and then what's this? And then I looked from there. I actually pulled up her Instagram, and the second thing on her Instagram, which she posted, I don't know, 6 days ago, is a clip from the clip of her from the movie.
Right.
Saying,
exactly.
High five.
You're right. Exactly.
I was like, she's definitely riding the wave from it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
because it's the only reason you even have that article is because how many people are going to pay her to do an interview about how she was duped by Sacha Baron Cohen versus how many people are going to pay you to do an interview talking about how I'm in the Borat movie and it was great.
Yes, like, exactly.
Everyone you want controversy, Chris Cash. It's like, I was duped.
Exactly. So anyway, Tutard, which is the name of Borat's daughter, and we found out in the movie that Borat's middle name is Margaret. I don't know why, but that's what his middle name is. So now she had a talking to on how to make herself presentable to be a sugar baby, Tutar. Then Borat takes her to get her hair done. And this is one of those which I was just like, oh my God. And they take her into a salon and he says, I want her to be like, and it was just something very misogynistic, either like Playboy or like hooker or something like that. I want her to look like that. Or he might have even said, I want her to make her attractive to old men. And the woman in the hair place said, like, we can do that. So and the daughter came in with like a babushka on her head, so you couldn't see her hair. And so the hairstylist said, let's see her hair. So the actress pulls up her skirt and you see just crazy bush, like all sticking out of her underwear. And the woman's like, oh dear, no, not that. No. And
that was a cringe moment.
Definitely a cringe moment. So they doll her up. They dye her hair blonde. They put a ton of makeup on her. Oh, they go into a makeup place and there's a young man and he's very obviously gay. And he's also super tall because he's almost as tall as Borat. And so the daughter walks in and she looks at the lipstick and she bites it off because she thinks it's candy. And he's like, no, that's not candy. And Borat takes another one. He goes like, it doesn't taste very good. And the guy's like,
you're not supposed to eat it.
You're not supposed to eat it. Why are you eating it? You're not supposed to eat it.
That part was great.
Which was hilarious. So they do a makeup job on her, and you look at her, and she's a very cute young woman. And like my wife said, she does look like she could be 15. She literally does. Like if you brought that girl in front of me and she just had like, you know, a normal haircut and just regular clothes, and you said she was 15, I'd be like, okay, yeah. It's a very Slavic thing. That's what a lot of Slavic men and women, for that matter, look like kids until they're in their 30s. And some just look like kids, and then they end up looking just like old kids. You know, it's like Benjamin Button. No, seriously. I mean, I have a friend. She's in her mid-50s. She's Ukrainian. She might be close to 60. She looks like a young girl that's just gotten older. Like everything about her, she still looks like a pretty young thing. But you can see, like, you know, you can see the lines, and you're just like, huh? She looks like an elf. That's the only thing I can think of. It's like it's very common in the Slavic world to find people like this that look young yet old at the same time. So, but anyway, Tutar is made up. So they go find, and I forget the woman's name, a debutante trainer to train Tutar to be a debutante in the South. Now, mind you, this is all happening in the South. This is, and I suppose because they said originally Galveston, Texas, this is somewhere down in the Gulf area of Texas. So the woman's training her up. They go get a dress for Tutar, some fancy dress place, and she, of course, the gag is the woman gives her a dress and she says, "Here, try this on," and she comes out wearing the plastic bag the dress is in, which is just
that part was great.
It's a funny sight gag. It really,
I really like just the dumb, almost slapsticky moments in it. Because that's one where when you're in on the joke, it's just funny because she comes out and she's like, "Look," and the woman is like, "No, sorry, no, that's not the dress." And Borat's like, "Oh, I like," and they're like going back and forth like it's so nice. And this woman is just like that to me is hilarious. That was
that is funny, right? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's cringe humor peppered through with just like really funny shit, like very slapsticky stuff. And then Tutar asks us, like, "You own store, but where is the man?" And she says, "No, this is my store." And it's like, what? You know, like, because the subplot of this whole movie is, I guess, an awakening for Tutar, right? That she's, that women are just people and not subservient dogs to men, right? Because
she has the book.
She has a manual, right? Yeah. She has a manual that says, and the favorite part of the manual is, as a woman, is the story of Nadia something, who touched herself in her vagine, and the vagine swallowed her up, and she's inside her own vagine to this day, got swallowed by her own vagine, which is just hilarious. So from there, we go to the debutante ball. And it's a very proper Southern debutante ball. And those listeners of ours from the South know about this. I'm pretty sure most people in the Northeast don't. Debutante balls are a very serious thing. And they train, and it's not just a white thing either, just so we're clear. It's a very, like, it's almost like, I guess it's almost like a Viennese ball. Like for a European context, it's almost like a Viennese ball or a masking ball, and it's called a debutante ball because young women, it's almost like, it's like a bar mitzvah is what it is. It's like, now you're a grown-up. Now you're a flower.
Well, what's the fucking point of it, though? I was watching, I'm like, what's the point of this?
It's like a bar mitzvah. What's the fucking point of it? To tell a 13-year-old that he's got pubic hairs?
Wait, so is it about one person in particular? Because I thought it was all of these girls.
It's about all of them. It's about
okay.
It's because it's obviously it's not just one person that throws it. It's basically they all belong to a club or a country club or something like that, and they have a debutante ball, and it's almost like a Sweet 16 for all of them.
Okay.
And I forget at what age they go, and they all come and they dress up and they show how such good manners they have, because it's a Southern thing. It's like, oh, you always have to be a pretty lady and you never say anything bad about nobody. But, you know, you always say, like, when you talk about somebody, bless their heart, which is basically a Southern euphemism for like this fucking asshole. You know, if you're from Brooklyn, you say this fucking asshole, but if you're from the South, you say, oh, bless their heart.
I hate all that shit because all this Southern charm bullshit.
Right.
It just makes me think like, well, this is just fucking like, this is a tactic to get the slaves to work harder for you. Like, that's all that shit is. It's just like, well, if you speak all real nice to them and be like, oh, why'd you do that for me, Puddin'? It look like it's that's what it is. It's this saccharine kind of like, well, why don't you just get on with your work now?
Absolutely.
And bless your heart is just, I learned this at a young age. One of the first job I ever had working in a restaurant, there was a woman who was originally from the South, and she would say that. And basically how she used it was so she could say anything, whatever she wanted, and be as mean as she wanted, but then she just tacked bless your heart onto the end of it like nothing happened.
Exactly.
It was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, no, it's like confession for Catholics. It's like the way pastors go confess.
Well,
like I just chopped up Jimmy and I fucking threw him in the East River. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It's like, we're forgiven.
You can say what you want. That's like Trump. That's Trump's whole thing. Except instead of saying that, he just says like, some people are saying that. I don't know. They say that. People are saying, I don't know. Exactly. I don't say it. They say it. I don't know. Yes. He's saying whatever he wants, but just like, they say that global warming's not real. I mean, I don't say that. Some people say that. That's what people say. I don't know who says that. I don't know, but people say it. I'm like, the fuck? Everything.
It's the junior high school equivalent of I have a girlfriend. Where is she? She lives in Canada. That's what that is.
She goes to another school.
Yeah, she lives in Canada, my girlfriend.
Who are the people, now I think about who are the people that Trump's always looking at? They never look at the people. He's always looking at someone when he's like, he's making shit up. And I imagine there's just like one person standing there just like going.
That's why I love. That's why I love when like his people like go and interviews with like Australian news people, and the Australian people are like, so is he insane or is he senile? Which one is it? They don't even give him any fucking other options. Like, is he insane or senile? And then they're like, what do you mean? It's like, only somebody that's insane or senile would say this. Which one is he? Please specify. So, yeah. Anyway, so they do the debutante thing, and Tutar has a lovely dress on. And she tells Borat, Andrew's already shaking his head.
This was the worst moment of the movie. It really was. It was at least tied for it, if not.
No. This is by far the worst. I can't believe Sean actually watched the whole thing, having a little girl. This was just literally the worst thing. So Tutar says to Borat she can't dance because her moon blood is happening. First time.
That is pretty. The moon. The name is pretty funny though. Yeah.
So, it's good. Sean, in about 10 years, this is not going to be very funny to you. I'm going to tell you this right now. So anyway, he says, but what, we have to dance. It's like, oh, let's do the fertility dance, whatever the fuck. And they make up some shit. And I'll say this. So there's a room full of people, a room full of men with their daughters. And the mothers are there actually as well. The daughters are dressed up nicely. And so it's one of these funny things where you want to paint an entire section of the country or group of people with a broad brush. And yet at the same time, it's almost difficult to reconcile what's happening. So here are these two very obviously foreign people that have come into the circle of debutantes, that they've accepted. And they started to do, not with the traditional, whatever it was, a waltz that they do with their daughters, the fathers do. They start doing a very Middle Eastern, Eastern European sounding dance.
Yeah, it reminds me of like a Bollywood type of dance when they started.
Exactly. And everyone gets into it and is very supportive and starts clapping along with them. And it's nice. And they start doing this dance. But then Tutar starts lifting her skirt up. And she very obviously has like a diaper filled with like fake blood. Which is awful. And then slowly you see like just drips of blood. And then you see people like noticing like, what the fuck? And people just start leaving. Like the young girls are all just like leaving. They can't handle it at all. And the fathers are kind of drunk and just like, oh, and they're all being super polite because you have to be polite. This is Southern society. You can't just walk up to somebody and be like, the fuck are you doing here? And at the end of it all, Tutar is basically at the end of this dance on the ground with her legs raised and her skirt up over her head and just blood everywhere. And it's just the most awful. The minute this dance started and they mentioned moon blood, my wife just made a beeline right out of the room. She was like, I can't fucking watch this. She just like left the room.
I think I would love to have seen how that would have played, like both for me, but also in just general with an audience, if they'd have had the balls to do it without pre-warning you with the moon blood thing. Like it would have been even like, what? Because you think it's just going to be, oh, it's a crazy dance. Like that would have been, I'd like to have seen them. I feel like they had, I don't know, like it's funny, but it would have, that shock value would have been.
You know what? That's
what
we were talking about earlier with the clown. That's where it would have been.
It almost made it more cringeworthy, though, at least for me, because I knew it was coming. And I was like, please tell me they're not going to actually do this. Like, I know it's Borat, but don't do this. I think, and I knew it was coming, and that just made it even worse for me, I think.
I think somewhere along the way, Sacha Baron Cohen had a little bit of conscious, and he said, like, let's warn people so they can leave the room while they're watching this. I think that's what happened. So anyway, so this whole thing is done. And this is the other joke. They never show the consequences with this, right? Unless something immediate that happens, they never show afterwards what happened. And
obviously, just that's a freewheel out there, like.
Well, obviously, they got everybody's permission to show their faces because when they first got to the debutante thing, and he's talking to some guy, he says, "How much money would you give for my daughter?" And some random guy says, "You think she's worth $500?" And the guy says, "Yeah." And he says, "You're my best friend ever. High five." And the guy's daughter looks at him and she goes, "Fucking disgusting."
Yeah. Yeah. She's like one of like three people in the movie that come out like
what the fuck?
They're all women. They're all women. He's very intelligent the way he did it though, because he's framed the people that all come out like the best. Just like that young girl, the African American,
the babysitter
they were on, and then like the Jewish old woman.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the people.
Oh no! There was a fourth one later at the CPAC, if you remember, when he tried to sneak into the CPAC. But before we get ahead,
okay.
So after this, they decide.
Is this when they go to get implants?
Yes, that's right. They go to get implants, and they go to a plastic surgeon. And of course,
this part was great.
The running joke is, "Would you fuck my daughter?" Basically, the whole time. And the doctor's like, "Well, if your father wasn't here, sure." And I'm just like, "What the fuck?" What? It's like,
or the nose bit when he says, when they're like, "What would you do with my daughter?" And he's like, "Well, maybe we'd start with a nose job." And she's like, "Oh, nose job."
Do I have a nose like a Jew? Right? Yeah. And then he starts talking about Jewish noses, and it's like, dude.
And when is it her or Borat that asks that? And then the doctor's like, no, not like a Jew, and they're like, oh, that was just talk about cringe moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I cackled at that moment just out of like shock, like one of those shocking moments where I just like.
Out of all of the people that look bad as far as like consequences go, there are a lot of people that like this isn't going to affect them because who cares? And then there's people like on the other end, you get your Giuliani's and you're like, they're untouchable as far as shame goes.
Right.
But like the plastic surgeon, I was like, this guy is probably the most fucked up.
He's toast.
Because you're a doctor, man. Like you're an actual doctor and you are like, they would not. A lot of people, you can see that Borat has pushed them, like it's entrapment, and I get it. But this guy, I was like, oh, this guy is really like digging his own hole.
And especially with that last comment when he was like, "If your dad wasn't here."
Yeah, right.
Oh,
What? Like
Yeah.
you could maybe, I'm not saying you could or should, but you could see a tiny bit someone making the argument of like, well, maybe he didn't actually mean these things, but he just was in an awkward position and was trying to be nice because this guy was going to pay him money, right? Like about like talking about the noses and everything else, and not saying it makes it okay, but right, you could hear that argument.
Right.
There's no argument to be like, oh, he was clearly just trying to be nice to this guy by saying like, if you weren't here, I'd bang your daughter. Like, come on.
At the best, he's just trying to make money.
Right.
Yes.
That's the best is he's trying to just make money. Like that's the best option. So even there, it's like awful.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So we find out that the surgery is some $20,000 or so, roughly, right? And Borat hands a bag over, and it's all in singles, which is fucking hilarious. And the woman at the desk, very obviously, older Southern woman, she's had at least a dozen fucking surgeries. Because you can see her lips look like they're freaking from Jagger. Her nose is this perfect little freaking ski jump little thing. It's brilliant. And she's sitting there counting out all this money. And they literally give $72 short of the money they need to get the plastic boob job for Tutar. Like $72.
That's a great gag that I wish they had the time maybe, but timing wise, it just wouldn't work.
That is a great gag.
Done more with, like, they actually literally handed this woman a suitcase or a duffel bag full of singles of like $20,000, and this poor woman just sat there and counted while they just went and sat down and waited for it. Like, that's so good.
I love the production assistant's job, whose job it was to go and change up all that money.
Exactly. So then they find out they're $72 short, and they can't have the surgery unless they have it. And here's my thing. It's like, look, I'm a doctor. I am $72 short of $20,000 to put in a pair of boobs. You know what? That's literally like 2 bottles of this. We're good. We're good. Okay, we'll get the boob job done. We're okay. Especially like a plastic surgeon. You probably do 4 of these a week. Like $72 is nothing to you.
Oh, and it's all elective. Like, talk about like generating repeat customers. Right. Any sort of business. Like, if anyone's going to do you a deal, it's the plastic surgeon, because he's like, because you're going to remember and you're going to come back for some more shit. It's not
right. Exactly. It's the equivalent of going car shopping, and you go to the new car dealer, and it's like, oh, well, you know what? We'll throw in an undercarriage protection for you for free. Whatever the fuck that means. They spray it with fucking Lysol, and they tell you it's undercarriage protection, and they send you off on your way. And then they think you're going to come back and get a stereo or a roof rack installed or whatever the hell you're going to do to the car. So, right. So now Bart has to earn the $72. This was just a silly thing, which cracked me up. He has to earn $72. So he decides he has to drop off his daughter to a babysitter. And he drops her off, and he literally has a iron ball and a chain that he has her chained to the leg. And he drops her off to this babysitter, who is a middle-aged black woman. Very nice. And I forget what her name was. But she's just kind of like, you could see her fighting with herself not to comment. Because he comes in with this chain and the ball, and she's like, obviously I need to make money. I need to earn some cash. And just like, what the fuck is this guy doing with his kid? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Borat leaves her, the daughter, Tutar, with this woman.
Oh, and he gives her the bowl for her to drink out of. And at that point, like a dog bowl. And it's like, this is what she drinks from. And at that point, the woman is like, she said something like, no, we drink out of a glass. Like, I'll give her a glass if she needs water.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Borat does everything. He basically does everything out of a fantasy porn S&M thing that he could with his daughter to this woman who's a babysitter, which is like I said, if I was in this production meeting, I'd be like, no, you can't. You can't do this to like a nice person. Why would the fuck would you do this to a nice person? This is awful, literally awful.
And I feel this woman. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. You guys don't remember her name, do you? But bless her, because she bless her heart. But she eventually shows to be like the most, or one of, like we were just saying before, one of the most redeeming and like kind people in the movie. And I do feel bad for her.
Completely.
I don't know what the circumstances were really actually leading up to her babysitting and what she was led to believe, right?
She was easily the most sympathetic character in this movie.
Yeah.
Like the inadvertent, victim of Boratness, if you will. She was easily the most sympathetic character in the movie. So Borat goes and he gets a job as a barber. And all credit to this dude who sat for the haircut with Borat. Borat is literally there with like sheep shearing shears. Okay, I don't know if you can say that fast too many times. When you see this on the YouTube, you'll see Andrew is laughing very hard. But he doesn't have scissors; he has sheep shearing shears. And every time he clipped a little piece of hair off the good guy, he would show it to him for the gentleman, and like offering him wine. And the guy's like, "Yes, yes." This like big overweight old dude. How self-important do you have to feel to constantly just endure that? Is again, this is what I want to tell people is like, this is the South. The South is all about being polite. It's about not ruffling feathers, and this is one of the reasons why you're supposed to be conservative, because you're not supposed to ruffle feathers or change things, which is just garbage. Just get over yourselves and fucking get on with it.
That's like the thing. The guy that was getting his hair cut, like you could make the argument that he's like some dumb Southern American guy or whatever, but you could also make the argument that he was just trying way too hard to stay polite and be nice. Yeah. Because I couldn't have done that. No. He would clip one little chunk of his hair and be like, good. And the guy would be like, that's fine. Thank you. And he'd throw it. And then he'd clip one more and be like, good. And who knows if he did it. I mean, I imagine he did it for a long time. I couldn't have sat through that. And
I would have sat there the whole time. I completely like
British, just being polite and British.
And if have you seen the original Borat?
No, like from the TV show.
So good. If you go back and watch it, because it was the Ali G show in the UK Ali G show. It was segments, like it was only little sketches, clips. It would go back to, and there was like 2 or 3 Borat sketches in an episode, and it's so good. And it was catered so much. The whole point of the Borat thing was it was catering to the Britishness of foreign people, and just how, the British way is to like, we don't understand you, but good, it's very good that you're here, and yes, like you can, we are glad to host you, and I don't understand what this is. And that it was all that. So it was all about people just kind of politely just being like, I shan't say anything. And it wasn't about them being stupid. Like it was, the movie was different because it came to America and it was all about, look how stupid these people are. But in the original in Britain, it wasn't about how, like, look how dumb they are. It's look how repressed British people are, that they don't say anything when this guy is doing all this crazy stuff, and they're just like, It was just a lot of him kissing men, these old British men, politicians, who would just be like, just, lots of that.
That's so great.
It's all of the Sean's favorite cringe story that I told Sean. And Andrew, I don't know if I've never told you this, but this is Sean's favorite, one of my favorite stories from me. I went to see Phantom of the Opera with my wife. My mom used to be able to get discount tickets. You can already see Sean like cringing already. And the theater, and I forget what theater it was in on Broadway, Phantom of the Opera. Went to see it, sat down. It's an old theater. It's majestic. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It still has all the original.
It's the Majestic.
Is it the Majestic? Okay.
Yeah, I was like, it was like, whatever it's called, it's majestic. I was like, yeah, it is.
There it is.
Right. Okay. So it's at the Majestic. It is majestic. Seats are tiny. Okay. And as we all, I'm not a huge guy. I'm 6 feet tall. At this point, I'm still carrying an extra like 30 pounds. I'm about 6 foot, 220. And I sit in this chair. These chairs are tight. I'm like, oh, fuck, this is uncomfortable. Come sits next to me a big fucking guy. Orthodox Jewish guy. 6'5", 350 pounds, easy. This dude is spilling over the fucking chair. His gut is literally resting on my nuts. And I kid you fucking not. His gut is resting on my nuts. The music starts. And what was it? No more talks of silence. Forget your weary or whatever the fucking words are. And he is fucking singing this while the dude is singing it on stage. And I'm like literally in this chair. And he's like a little bit up here. So this is now starting to feel like a prelude to prison rape to me. Because there's a fucking guy next to me fucking singing in my ear. And I'm literally like, what? I'm already uncomfortable because I'm squished in this chair and this guy's gut is in my lap. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, I'm sweating. It's hot. Everybody's crammed in there. My wife is just like looking at me worriedly, like, are you okay? And I'm like, and this dude starts singing. And I'm like, dude, I really appreciate that you love Phantom of the Opera, but I paid for fucking tickets to listen to them sing, not to listen to you fucking sing. And the dude just fucking clamps up and he's like, where he could have crushed me because he was enormous. He could have fucking just destroyed me. Like I said, he easily had 140 pounds on me. He could have just fucking crushed me. But I was just like, no, you are not singing in my fucking ear softly this whole freaking show. You're not doing that.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
And I told Sean that story, and Sean just wanted to fucking crawl out of his own skin when I told him.
Oh God, I hate that story so much.
Wait, what do you hate about it? You hate the fact that Tomo like actually told him to stop singing?
Oh yeah. No, Tomo's the villain. Yeah, completely.
So you would rather sit through a Broadway show in like
Andrew,
just
you
hating
don't understand. It would actually make my my day. No, it would be great for me. I would love it because I would just be like, this man is so like, this means so much to him. And this is so sweet, and so he's so engaged and so involved, and this is his life. And like, I can't believe it, and I get to see that this is so magic because like I can't not see it through like a performer's eyes, having been on the stage, and to think if you're on stage, like that's it. The idea that there's someone out there like singing along and like that's why you do it. I'm like, to make
wouldn't you think as a performer you'd be annoyed because he's ruining it for everyone else?
See, Sean is a purist. Sean is like,
Sean, you're a good man.
He's a good man. Share my art. Share my art. Another audience paying member going like, listen, fuckhead. No, they are the ones getting paid to sing, not you, you fat lub.
I've done similar things, and I struggle with it because I want to be nice, but I've done similar things at like the movies because you guys know how much I love going to the movies. If you have like a bad audience member, and only it really depends, but like I had like kids kicking my seat once, and I turned around. I said it very nicely, but turned around and said like, do you mind? And the parents were like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's okay. And they didn't kick the seats anymore. And so I'm like, I spent 5 to 10 minutes of the movie getting my seat kicked, thinking like, it's okay. Like, cause I didn't want to be that guy to turn around and say something. And it was watching Infinity War. I had already seen it once, fortunately, but I was seeing it a second time, and I was seeing it in IMAX. And I'd spent extra money to see it in IMAX. And so I was like, no, this is like a 2 hour and 45 minute long movie. I am not going to sit here and get kicked and just because I will literally just sit. If I don't say something, I'll just sit there and get angrier and angrier and angrier. So I'll sit there and get angry for 3 hours and not enjoy the movie. So anyways, I say something. And when I say something, I think I'm saying it nice. I probably come off way more aggressively because that 3 hours worth of anger is already starting to sift in me in the first 5 minutes.
Will you please take this comic book movie more seriously? This is the second time that I'm watching it. Please. There are grown-ups trying to watch this film. These
Excuse me.
Please. These superheroes, give them some respect. Bro, your children.
This is a superhero movie. Why'd you even bother to bring these kids here?
Do you understand what Tony Stark is going through here?
Needless to say, I was glad that I politely asked them to stop kicking my seat because I was able to continue to enjoy the film. So I sympathize with you, Tomo, and I appreciate that you told that man to stop singing. Not that I don't appreciate it. Wait, Sean, what about if someone was kicking your seat?
Oh yeah, different. No, completely different. That's so different. I mean, already movie theaters don't have the same rules for me as theaters because I worked in movie theaters for years, and like I used to be terrified of saying anything in a movie theater, as I am anywhere in the world with not, any situation where people are going to not like me. I go up against. Like, I have this thing, I need everyone to love me all the time, whoever they are, even if I'm never going to meet them again. If they're a waiter, if they're someone working at like a Subway, like it doesn't matter who they are. I need everyone to love me all the time. And if they don't, it pains me. I would rather go out of my way.
Sean, you spiritual whore, you.
Oh, I can't. I need it. But that movie theater is different because I worked in movie theater, so I have no fear. If anyone starts fucking around a movie theater, I tell them because because when I worked in a movie theater, I would see people like me putting up with shit, and then they would come to me like 2 hours into like Inception and be like, "There's people behind me, and they just keep talking, and I just want to watch the movie." Oh. And I would be like, "Fucking, I'm going to do this for both of us." And I work here. So I would be there with my flashlight and I would be like, "Stop, he's trying to watch the movie. Have some respect." And that stayed with me. So I can do that in a movie theater.
I have one that's, and I don't know if this is borderline, and I don't know if I should share this story, but Alex, forgive me. I'm going to share this story. We went to see Wonder Woman. And it was a bunch of what's the politically correct term? Able adults. I don't.
Were they able? Were they drunk?
No, like. Not handicapped, but like kind of like mentally handy able people, whatever.
Oh, okay.
In their 20s.
What you're trying to say.
And
I think you say something like, what is the thing now? Differently abled? Differently
able. That's the.
I think that's what you were looking for.
They're differently abled. Yeah.
Mental. They're mental, mate.
Yes. Right. Differently abled people, young people, talking, not quietly, loudly. And the movie starts. And it's like you're expecting them to, because, the lights dim down, the sound goes up, the whole thing. It's the Wonder Woman movie. We're all excited. They keep talking. And they keep talking. And now my buddy, he actually used to work as a paraprofessional for the New York City public school system, where he dealt with, handicapped kids and all the time. And he has a short fuse to begin with. He's a cop now, mind you. And these young folks kept on yapping, and one girl in particular, she kept on yapping. And the movie started, and it was about to start with a dialogue, and they're still yapping, full volume, the whole thing. He goes, "Okay, it's movie time now." And they all clapped. There were like 3 or 4 rows in front of us. And they were like, And they're all kind of like looking at the girl that was the loudest. Like, yeah, shut up, man. Stop talking. She's like, what? Oh, what? And I'm trying not to laugh out loud, but at the same time, I'm like I'm paying for Alex's beers later because this was actually the appropriate thing to do.
Oh yeah, that's like perfect. I was worried with the story where it's going to go, but like that's it. Like that's exactly.
But he did it in a very stern voice, and he's like, "Okay, it's movie time now," and they just clamped up. And it was
a great line too. That's like the most basic. That's like a dad line to like kids.
It was
movie time now.
He totally, his dad instinct kicked in. He totally just did the dad thing. Unfortunately, later, and I was just like, and I kind of lost it because I got angry because it was the scene with Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, and they were kind of like, will they, won't they kiss?
Oh, when they were like dancing and the snow starts coming down? Yes. I remember that scene very well.
And the girl that was loudest early, she was like, oh, go ahead, kiss him. Go ahead, kiss him. Stop. I'm trying to tell the story. She's going, go ahead, kiss him. Come on, kiss him. Go ahead, come on, kiss him already. Come on, kiss him. Like loud. And involuntarily, out of me, I'm like, would you fucking kiss him already? And the kid sitting next to her just like hits her and she shuts up. And I felt so awful afterwards. But I was just like, come on. So that was horrible. And I felt awful. I felt like such a heel for like a week. I just erupted. So no, you fucking kiss him. So it was bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've laughed a lot on this podcast. I think that is the hardest I have ever laughed. I literally have tears in my eyes right now.
Anyway, where do we start with Borat before we went off on this?
I don't have a clue.
Oh, no. Yeah, we were done with the debutante ball, right?
Oh, the guy getting his hair cut. That's
what guy getting his haircut. Yes.
Oh, did you hear that? As a side point to that, he was on this point. There was a clip. Sacha Baron Cohen was on Conan recently, and it was a clip I saw on the internet, and he was talking about a deleted scene, or like it was a section they filmed, and he loved it, and it was the best. He asked him like, "What's something really good that you filmed for the movies that isn't in it, whatever?" And he said his favorite thing that they ever filmed with the Borat character was in this movie, and just for logistical reasons in the edit, they couldn't keep it. But he said it was at the moment when he needed money and Borat needed to go and find a job. And they had this setup where he was going to be a porn star. And he was going to... And it's such a funny story. And and they had it arranged and he was going to be in this porn movie. So he went to this hotel. He was getting shot in this hotel, this scene. And the director's there, and he's the serious porn director, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And he says to Borat, and he's dressed like a waiter. He's like, yeah, so you're going to come in as the waiter, and then we're going to do this, and then you're going to, and he's like, oh, very nice. Yeah. Very nice. And then they start filming. He's like, go. And he's like, Noki's like, coming in. And then he comes in, and they're having sex. And the shtick is he's supposed to come as the waiter, they're having sex, and then he ends up, joining in. But he comes in and he sees him having sex, and he's like, knock, knock, knock. I have your order. I'm your waiter. And he goes, oh, I'll come back later. and then turns up, does a beeline and runs down the corridor. And the director's like, no, come back. And he explains to him, he's like, no, they're having sex and you know that, and you see them, and then you join in and you go. And he's like, oh, yes, okay, I see. And then they do it again. And he comes in, he's like, knock, knock, knock. I have something for you. And he comes in, and then he goes, oh, I come back later, and just runs out again and just runs down the hall. And then the director comes and goes, no, you don't understand. You fuck her. You come out, take off clothes, you fuck her. And he's like, yes, make a sexy time with it. Oh, very good. And then he's like, yeah. So then they do it again. He comes out, and then he he stays this time, and he goes to look, and then he goes, cut, and then like, what the fuck? And he explains, he's like, she have no hair on her
Vagine?
On her vagine, no hair. It's like it, and he's like, yeah, of course she doesn't have any hair. He's like, no. How am I supposed to? I can't get up if it's no hair. Like, how I get up? Like, I cannot make sexy time, cannot get big. And he's like, oh fuck. And he's like, no. And it gets to the point where the director's like, fine, we'll get some hair. And he ends up deciding, he's like, fuck, I'm gonna cut my own hair, and we're gonna stick it on her if that's what it takes for you to be able to do it. And he calls down, he makes him call down to the reception for a pair of scissors. And then Borat, and Sacha Baron Cohen's telling the story, he calls down, he says, hello, yes, Mr. Director for sexy porno needs to make scissors to cut hair, to put on a vagine, to make sex, to make big. And they're like, and then he gets the scissors, and then he comes out, and he cuts the hair, and they manage to stick it on. They get like crazy glue and like actually stick it down on there. He's like, okay, now she's got hair, now you can do it. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, very good. And then they do the whole thing. He comes in, and she's waiting, and he goes, oh, and then he starts to take his clothes off, and then he turns to the he says, and he's like, okay, you can leave now. And they're like, what? He says, you can leave. We make sex. I don't make sexy time in front of, how I do in front of cameras, like, private time. And then like that's the way he gets out of it. Like he does it, and that's how they don't do it. But the way he tells it is just so fun. Like the idea of this, the director. For starters, I'd love to know who these people are that you can just go and be in a porn movie that easily and quickly, and be that difficult of an actor, and they'll still put up with it.
Yeah, I don't get it. Because like literally, you could grab any guy.
Okay, my wife just walked in the room. She heard me say that. She thinks she's
my wife.
My wife likes.
Take it out of context.
Shit, tiny little lady brain get confused.
All the strings in her head, they go the wrong ways if she drinks that way.
The little hamster wheel in her brain, wheel is broken, hamster is too fat, it gets confused.
Oh my God. So, all right. So we leave the debutante ball again. This is, I think, a half an hour since we initially talked about it.
Well, haircut. We were at the haircut.
Oh, haircut. Yeah, he's getting a haircut.
Daughters with the babysitter.
Daughters with the babysitter. The babysitter's telling them women can do anything. They can be whatever they want. They can drive. The daughter doesn't want to believe. She says she's a man in drag, basically in disguise. It's like, no, women drive. Women can own houses. Women can have businesses, the whole 9 yards. Daughter then sees another woman driving and follows the woman. The woman gets out of the car and goes into another hotel, which is like literally across the street from where, or I should say not even the street, across the parking lot from where they're staying. Mm-hmm. And she goes in, and it's some Republican women's convention. And this is actually really funny. So the daughter walks in, and she introduces herself. I think she got a name tag. And then she goes to the bathroom and starts playing with herself. Because she's examining whether it's true, whether she's going to die and be swallowed by her vagina if she touches it. And she ends up playing with herself, and she walks into this Republican women's meeting and starts talking about playing with herself, and they should all take their panties off right now and play with themselves and be free. And most of the women are kind of like looking around like, what the fuck is going on here? And one woman is very encouraging and like free, and like her expression, she's like, yes, young woman, you can touch yourself all you want and be as free as you want, which I thought was hilarious. It was like she was so supportive that it was freaking hilarious.
That would have been a good time to flip the tables and actually make fun of the Democrats. I think would have been good. They didn't do that. And I see why they didn't, because there is a political agenda, which I'd say is one of the worse. One of the aspects of this movie is why it fell a little flatter is you can definitely see its political agenda.
Right.
And it works its best. Like I said, the clown works when he doesn't have a bias. Like when you're just splitting down the middle. Like same as SNL. Like, I don't really like SNL. But you have to. They always say like we try. I mean, they do lean obviously, but they try and make fun of both sides. Like that would have been a really good time to like if she'd have been like with an AOC style Elizabeth Warren like Democratic convention and she got him and said all that stuff. It's ridiculous, but they would have been whooping it. Everyone would have been like, "Yeah, you're fucking like, yeah, you're gonna do that. We're all gonna go to the bathroom," and she probably wouldn't be able to get a big, huge mass like.
And it would have been hilarious. You're absolutely right.
And they would be like, "That's how ridiculous," you know.
Because I mean, that's one of the things with the recent SNL Joe Biden skits and these, left-leaning reporters like, that's the last thing we need is Jim Carrey making fun of Joe Biden. I'm like, no, that's the whole fucking point. We're doing satire here. Make fun of him. I mean, why is this a fucking issue? They're like, no, we don't need that because that's going to distract us. Like, if you need SNL to fucking make your mind up about who you're voting for, then you're fucking an idiot.
Then we're already lost.
We're already lost. Absolutely. If you need a fucking comedy show to make your mind up about who to vote for, we're lost completely.
Yeah. But to your point, Sean, I agree with you. I think the film as a whole could have kind of, I don't know what the word is here, but it just would have been better had it. I mean, you could see its bias so clearly, and it didn't bother me. But as far as comedy goes, I think it would have been better comedy where a little bit more like if it was taking a real look at America today on the whole picture, because there's comic gold there across the board, like what's going on today and how people are on all and every side from left, right, and everything in between. And the fact that like it focused so heavily on the right-wing stuff is, while a lot of it created really funny stuff, it is a little bit, and this isn't any real discredit to the Borat movie because I thought it was pretty funny, but it's a little bit like tired out almost at this point. Because it's been done so much, and Borat is such an interesting and like unique comedic character that, and I didn't even think of this until you've said it now. I would have loved to have seen if it really kind of just took on everything across the board and exposed all of it. And I think you would have more of like a long-lasting comedic impact than.
I think part of the reason was, and Sacha Baron Cohen talks about it. He says when he did the first Borat movie, he kind of had to cajole people into expressing their views. Mm-hmm. Whereas in this one, they made no reservations about it, right? Like he went to get the cake for his daughter or whatever, the birthday cake that said, Jews will not replace us. And the woman just freaking putting in icing without batting an eyelid. And it was just like, what the fuck? It was just one of those things. And that's what he was saying. I remember in the lead up to the movie, he was saying like 15 years ago, people weren't very comfortable with revealing what they really thought. Whereas now when he was doing it, they couldn't wait to tell you what they thought. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of it because, I mean, he's spoken out himself about like Facebook and Google and all these things about like, dude, you're giving credence to these fucking insane theories that hold no water, and you're allowing basically bullshit to proliferate. And I mean, to that point, I'm with him. It's like, look, it's all these like Rachel Maddow, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson. These aren't news shows, people. These are fucking opinion shows.
They're the same. They're no different than what we're doing here.
Well, right.
Well, more or less.
Well,
I think we do a better job. Personally,
we do a much better job, and we're more interesting because we're drinking.
We don't conceal the fact that we're drinking.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
Exactly.
Wolf Blitzer isn't hiding his like
down his pants. Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, the point being is like I get it because like that's the dangerous part. It's like journalism, because what's happened to journalism nowadays is it's all become about money.
Yeah, it's all clickbait.
Right, exactly. And so, facts are boring. Data is boring, but that's what the news should be. It should be facts and data, not fucking opinions. I don't give a shit how it makes you feel. Give me the facts. What was being said? Why was it being done? Where was it being done? When was it being done? Give me the fucking facts. Don't give me your opinion on it. That's what it should be. That's what the news was back in the day. But nowadays, it's like everybody's got fucking their 2 cents to put in. It's like nobody gives a shit.
And the problem is when something is advertised as an opinion show or an opinion column, it's saying up front, this is my opinion. So already psychologically, it puts you on the forefoot in that you're like, okay, I'm informed. But when you don't do that, and when you say it's the news, which inherently you're taught as a child, the news is the thing that educates you and tells you what to do. So when it is an opinion show, but it's under the guise of news, what happens is, what's even more dangerous, is it's saying you're teaching someone opinion. You're teaching someone their own opinions. You're saying you don't know what your opinions are, so here's some opinions.
Right. Exactly.
And then people go, these are my opinions. And that's what's so dangerous about it. And it makes me worried for people. And I'm like, I don't believe that this is what your opinion is. And I think there's also there's a slight sinister edge to this movie that I don't think it realizes it has, really, that there was a slight dark sinister to it that made me feel uncomfortable in the lead up to this important election, because I felt like it was treading the same path of how we ended up in this fucking situation in the first place, which is the whole movie exists because it's like he's trying to be like, look how crazy it is that we're still living like this. But remember how we got here in the first place is because of this. It's because of intelligent, capable people like yourself who know better think the way of is to make people look like idiots,
right?
And say, look at these stupid idiots and how they're terrible people and they're racist and they're dumb and they're this and they're sexist and blah 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 blah, and look what happens. And it's like you haven't learned that not only does that not work, that literally fuels the fire.
Yes.
It's like the Middle East. It's like you're making it worse. It's like a self-igniting. You're just fanning those flames every time you do something like this.
Absolutely. And I mean, I kind of wanted to bring that up at the next point. So Tutar basically comes to an awakening, if you will, and she decides her father's lying to her. The book is bullshit because her vagina didn't swallow her. She's leaving him. She's going to go be a journalist, and she runs off. She leaves with an Uber. He's walking around. He finds some guy. Where is everybody? He asks the guy. The guy says everybody's hiding because of COVID. So this is the COVID angle. And he ends up going with the guys and staying with them at their house.
Which, I said this when I was watching this movie last night. I was watching it with Gabby, and Gabs did not particularly love a lot of this film. But we're watching it, and I was like, he's clearly exposing, and you saw these guys in the trailer, so we knew they were going to say some dumb shit. So it's like he's clearly exposing like that these guys are showing like that he thinks they're dumb or that they're dumb guys or that they're going to say some stupid shit. But I was like, but at the same time, who are these guys that a stranger from presumably the Middle East?
Yeah,
they were just like he says, I come and live with you, and they were like, oh, you don't have anywhere to go? Yeah, sure, you can come stay with us.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
So I'm not defending a lot of the things they said because they said some heinous shit, but like there's some good there that like these guys took in some dude they didn't even know and
stranger.
Were like,
that's what I was going to say. They took a complete stranger off the street. I said, all right, well, why don't you stay with us for a few days until you can sort your shit out? So they literally open up their home to a complete and utter stranger who could have killed them in their sleep for all they know. And this was a saying. This is the what's the word I'm looking for? This is the just the opposing sides of like the same person, right? It's like the yin and the yang. It's like this guy's like really conservative and this and that, and he believes all this shit, but at the same time, he's helping somebody who's very obviously just stuck on the street.
Well, that's what makes me that's it's just what I'm saying about the last point is, I think, and what's so important to realize, and then the Democrats don't want to realize is these people, this prototypical Trump voter,
right,
is not a bad person, is not that, but what they are is more than anything is they're
misinformed.
trusting. They are trusting people.
Right.
They are very trusting, and they
Yes.
believe what is presented to them.
Mhm.
And sure, you can say stupid, gullible, but you can also say trusting and ideological.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's the same thing. And
Yeah.
that's a good trait, to be trusting and to be ideological and to just assume that someone is doing the best for what they say they're doing, because why not? I trust you.
Yeah.
You seem like a good guy to me. Like, if a snake oil salesman back in the old days, he was the crook, and then the people who are being sold, you wouldn't say, like, look at these fucking idiots getting done by a snake oil salesman. But that's what we do now. They're like, we got a snake oil salesman as president, and the people that vote for him are like, you fucking idiots. Like, no. These people are just
They're getting duped.
normal people who are being duped. And you don't say, you fucking idiot. I can't believe you fucking fell for that. Like, imagine if it's like your grandmother falls for a Facebook scam or sends money to someone. Are you going to say, you fucking stupid old idiot? Why the hell did you send your money? You fucking idiot. You would never do that. I'd be like, how terrible of them. This poor old lady. It's the same thing.
I think, yes. And I mean, I think that was actually part. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speak for Sacha Baron Cohen, but at least it comes across as that he wanted to show that, because here was these guys that just took him in off the street, and then they went to this rally where he pretended to be some country singer and sang along a bunch of freaking racist songs that the people sang along to, and they helped him find his daughter and tried to have him reconcile with his daughter. So not only did it take a guy in, they tried to help him fix his familial relationship.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I feel like he in any way, or the movie in any way, tried to paint them in a good light, though. At least for me watching it, I feel like I took those things away and was like, well, they at least did these things, so they're not all bad. But I don't know, but maybe you guys disagree. But I didn't feel like the movie tried to, if anything, what I got from it was the movie painted it like they're too stupid to know any better, and they're going to help him find his daughter so he can sell her.
You know what, though? At the same time, that's one of those, and I totally see where you're coming from. My opinion on that is, I guess, erring towards the side of generosity, I suppose. Mm-hmm. My opinion is, he left these parts in the movie to show that, look, maybe they support Trump, but at the same time, deep down, they were good people because they helped him, and they helped him. They took him in and they helped him get together with his daughter and the whole 9 yards. However, the cynical part of me says, well, if Borat was being played by David Oyelowo, would they have taken him in? Because he was a black man instead. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, I'm a little bit, like I said, that's the cynical part of me. But at the same, but still, if somebody's a scumbag, they're a scumbag. They'll be like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, but I wonder too. I mean, there's definitely something to be said about what you said. If it was a black man was Borat instead, but I think there's enough talk too about conservative folks being Islamophobic, and if Borat was saying he was from Kazakhstan and speaking the way he did, in theory, a person in that mindset would have automatically lumped them into that category and be Islamophobic against them. That's a completely different thing from the racism that Black Americans deal with. So it's not quite the same, but I do wonder, does that speak to these guys not being, I don't know if that tells us whether or not they're racist or they aren't racist.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. On the one hand, they seem like very generous people. Mm-hmm. And like I said, my cynical side is going well, what if? And now, is that fair to them? Probably not. Because we don't know. We don't know what if it was, some random dude from Africa came and said, like, listen, I have nowhere to be. And, would they do the same thing?
But we have no reason to say that they would or wouldn't. So you're not any more,
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So then Tatur escapes. He stays with these guys. She's at this rally. Borat sings at the rally and does these outlandish songs and tries to reach her. And the guys that he stayed with basically talk to her and tell her he wants to talk to her. And what
they're saying too, into the White House, by the way, this was cut out. I saw this in another clip. If you follow Borat's Twitter, he has a bunch of videos that's from the movie that didn't make it, like deleted scenes. And there's a whole bit where what's interesting about this, and it must happen a lot in this movie, is they don't necessarily know where certain routes are going to go story-wise because something could happen. So with the Giuliani thing that we're going to get to a little bit later, is they obviously in their minds targeted several people. They're like, because we don't know which one's going to turn out good. Like we want to get the most like scandalous thing. And they obviously tried almost exactly the same tactic with a bunch of different figures. And they obviously tried to do it with Donald Trump Jr. because she gets inside the White House for a briefing that she gets brought in, which they glossed over that she's now a journalist, like very short in the thing, but it was obviously a subplot where she was taken in by the crazy network, like what's it called? OAN. She gets in with the crazy blonde young OAN journalist woman, that batshit one who asks like the crazy questions, about like, so Democrats are trying to kill babies and because they hate babies. Is it her? I don't think that's her. Is it? It's the OAN.
No, the OAN woman is a different one. Yeah.
The OAN woman, and she's like the White House correspondent for OAN, and she's mad, but she befriends her almost like as an intern sort of thing, and because she's young and like blonde and kind of pretty, and she says that she's super conservative, she tags her along, and Borat says like. It's like for a trailer for the movie is like, Trump is so strong and confident against COVID that my daughter gets into White House and she has no check or no COVID test or no metal detector. She walks straight into White House for briefing. And like, literally, she's like, yeah, I'll come in. You come with me. I'll get you in. And literally she just goes and she's like, yeah, she's with me. And then just like walks straight in and she's there for the briefing. And then she actually speaks to Donald Trump Jr. And it's the same exact script that she says to Giuliani, but to Junior about like, oh, I'm such a big fan of you. Oh, I'm so nervous to meet you. Like, oh, you're a hero. And the same stuff she says to Junior about Donald Trump Jr. But he doesn't he obviously doesn't do an interview and doesn't really fall for it. He just says like, oh, thank you very much. Like, yeah, good to meet you. Like, blah, blah, blah. And like shakes her hands like, okay, good, bye.
Dude, but the fact that she got into the White House so easy in of itself.
And maybe they didn't put it in the movie because obviously just like the repercussions of like actually sticking it on there that they got in the White House, like, oh,
that's terrifying, dude.
I know.
That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah, because
So wait a minute, but so going back to the Borat movie, we skipped the CPAC, didn't we? Because this whole thing happens where he splits up with Tutar. The CPAC happens beforehand.
Yeah,
where he basically sneaks into the CPAC,
how did we miss that?
Conservative Political Action Committee. He comes in, he sneaks into it dressed in a Klan robe, and this was what I was going to say, the fourth woman. Like, he comes in a Klan robe, walking all duck-footed, and people are looking around as he walks in, and they actually see a woman, and you can see her pantomime. Well, the mic didn't pick her up, I should say. And she sees the dude in a Klan outfit, and she goes, and the one woman goes, what the fuck? Like, literally. And then he goes to the bathroom and puts on the fat Donald Trump suit. And he throws Tutar over his shoulder and walks into the CPAC and says, Michael Pence, I have her for you. And the face that Pence had in that was Tim Curry could not pull off such a face of just disappointment and disdain in the most evilest of fashions. I can't describe it any other way. If he was a fucking actor, he would have gotten an Oscar just for that face that the Pence pulled off. It was just like, oh my goodness. This dude is so disgusted by this offer of a woman right now that
I wonder how much or what he heard, right? Because in theory, right, Borat, Sacha Baron Cohen was yelling up
Michael
to him,
Pettis, yeah,
right. So I wonder, like, how much he heard of it, or like, did he just hear yelling? Did he just hear yelling and see some dude in a Trump costume with a woman over his shoulder? I don't know, but which doesn't. I mean, I'm with you on the face he made was. That was gold.
It was like evil. He looked like Jafar was about to fucking cast a spell.
As far as all of the stunts he pulls in this movie, this one feels like the biggest. Because it's like, and again, I go back to, I was watching this with Gabby, and she was like half watching and half not because she was getting annoyed and uncomfortable by parts. And she saw this part and she was like, wait a minute. Because I had told her a little bit about it before, like, no, like a lot of this, this really happened. And she was like, wait a minute, did this really happen? And I was like, yes, this was a real convention. And he ran in there and Pence was on stage and a Trump. And she was like, oh my God, that's amazing. He really did that. And so, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was, that was one of those when it happened, I was like, I can't believe how easily he got access in there. Again, where's the fucking security? Because right now, Secret Service is like, what the fuck? Some rando with a camera fucking crew in different locations infiltrated something that we should have had covered.
Because that's when you know you're the evil guys, when you're not worried about the evil guys breaking in because there's no one trying to break in. Like, there's no terrorists trying to, like, do any crazy stuff at the Republican convention because they're on their side. Like,
right. It's really, like I said, eye-opening. So, Tattooer goes away. Borat goes back to talk to the babysitter to find out where his daughter is. And she says she left because she heard you were full of shit, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Basically says she had her awakening and she left. And Borat comes to the realization that he doesn't want her to...
That's not... Wait. No. Because doesn't he connect with her at the rally? Or at when he did the concert? He goes back to the babysitter to get the ball and chain back.
No. The guys tell her that if he's going to go back to Kazakhstan now... and the cows are going to turn him apart with a turnip up their ass or up his ass, and they're going to eat the turnip, and they're going to rip him apart, and the whole like medieval torture thing. And then she goes and she says she's going to give herself to Giuliani as a gift, because Giuliani was the next one, because he went back to the fax guy again to see if it's okay to give the daughter to Giuliani, and then he'd be forgiven. And so the daughter goes off to New York. She says she'll go give herself, but she doesn't want to talk to Borat.
Oh, and when Borat talks is it when he talks to the babysitter that he starts to realize, like, he doesn't want her to sell herself to Giuliani?
Exactly. Which is a funny conversation. And again, the babysitter is like the only normal person in this movie.
Yeah,
she says, like you can't, like, just sell your daughter. She's not property. She's a person, and then he comes to the realization that he loves his daughter. And then, of course, for good measure, he throws in, do you want to be my new black wife? And she goes, no. And he says, okay. And then he leaves. And my wife was absolutely in hysterics over this because she thought that was the funniest thing in the movie.
Her response was great, too, because he literally says, do you want to be my new black wife? And she responds, no, I will not be your new black wife.
Right. And he looks at her for a second and he goes, okay.
Because that was in the original movie. Didn't the original movie end with him marrying the big black woman?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then then he finds out he had like 2 hours to get to the daughter, which was hilarious because he's supposed to be in fucking Galveston, Texas. And it's like, yeah, guy, unless you got a teleporter, you're not getting to New York City in 2 hours, you know. But anyway, for the sake of the movie, he gets there. He tries to break in. He keeps talking about how Giuliani's haram is too old and he's going to go in his daughter and all this stuff. And she's interviewing Giuliani and doing the whole, I'm so nervous, you're my idol, blah, blah, blah. And he's doing like, you're going to do just fine. And every fucking thing Giuliani does is so creepy. Like, I literally want to sandpaper my fucking skin as I'm watching this part of the movie. It's awful.
When he like taps her on the back, he's like patting her on the back.
Oh, God. It's like every fucking kid toucher PSA you've ever seen as a kid just comes flashing back when you see Giuliani with this girl. Yeah. It's awful. It's what makes you realize, you see this part in the movie, it's what makes you realize that Rumpelstiltskin is basically a story about kid touchers. It's what it is. You realize Rumpelstiltskin is about kid touchers and how to stay the fuck away from kid touchers. That's what you realize is this Giuliani, the way he's behaving. And then Borat comes in, disguised as a sound guy, to try and save his daughter, and she recognizes him. And she's kind of like giving him the eyes to go away and whatever. And Giuliani's like, what's going on? And Giuliani still thinks it's an interview. And Borat says, stick to your cousins, which I just fucking lose my mind. And that's what I hysterically at. And so Tatur goes and talks to Borat and basically tells him to just basically like, go away. You know, she's fine. She's going to do this. And he's like, no, I don't want you to do this. And then Tatur comes back and she apologizes to Giuliani and she says, I'm sorry. Why don't we continue this interview in the bedroom? And he gets up and says, yes, why don't we? So, in all fairness now, to break this down as unambiguously as possible and just straight facts, he says, yes, let's continue this interview in the bedroom. Why would you do that?
Wait, wasn't the interview over? And she asked if he would like come and talk with her more or something? Like, I think the interview itself was over.
It might have been, but basically she said, let's go to the bedroom to talk.
Yeah,
Right.
It's like, why don't we continue this in the bedroom?
Which there was no reason for it to talk in the. Why would you need to talk in the bedroom? You can talk right here. You know, there's a mic right there. And he goes, yeah, let's do this.
Well, so the behind the scenes bits of this, what I was reading about a little bit, when they go into the bedroom, it's hidden cameras. Like there's no camera crew. So I believe, and I'd have to double check. We'd have to watch the movie again. But I believe the interview itself was over. And she was like, oh, this was fun. Like, do you want to like, I forget what she says to him, but it was like, come in here and like have another drink or whatever it was. But it wasn't like, let's finish the interview in here. So it was like, the interview was done.
Okay, so it was legit.
Right? Am I right with that?
I don't remember.
Sean, do you remember?
Yeah, it was. It was like, let's just go in the other room and have a conversation.
Okay, yeah, because I do want to make sure we get this part
It was like
right.
the interview was done, and then she was like, oh, you know, you are my hero. There's so much I want to learn from you. I'd love to talk to you about loads of different things. Like, oh, the interview's over. Like, oh, but maybe we can go next door and we can keep talking about. It was like that. And he was like, oh, yeah, of course, let's do that. So she left it open in a way where even if he wasn't creepy, there was still a chance he was going to go in the room because she was like, oh, you are my hero. I'm sorry, I was nervous in the interview. I'd still like to talk to you. I'll ask you a few questions about this, that, and the other. She did it in a way that even someone who would have their flag up would still probably do it because you didn't want to offend her.
Yeah,
right.
It was very well done the way she did it because it made him look like a creep. But also you could I would have probably done exactly the same thing just because I'm like, okay, let's.
Right. Well, that I guess that's the point that I was trying to get to because when they got to the room and she was working on this mic, trying to get it off, very obviously trying for the hidden camera to make it look like she's trying to either jerk him off or give him a Hummer. But when he laid down on the bed and stuck his hand down his pants to be fair, it did look like he was trying to just pull a mic from where it was tucked in.
And that has been his argument, is he's like, that's all I was doing.
And you know what? To be fair, yeah, it could have been, because like I've been on movie sets where they give you the little remote mics.
Yeah.
They tuck it in the front of your pants. They tuck it in the back of your pants, wherever it is. It could be there. And if there's a wire or whatever, you might need to like reach down your pants and pull it out. And the way the whole thing was set up, like when I remember hearing about it, I literally expected to fucking, see freaking a hand freaking doing this the way they were talking about it. Like, oh, he's fucking playing with himself. And I was just like, and then I saw the movie and I was like, I don't know if he was playing with himself.
No, I really don't think, I really don't think with his hand going into his pants that it was something like that. I really do believe that was because of the mic.
Yeah.
That said, I mean, he still had a glass of whiskey and went into the room with this girl. And so there's something to be said there about all of that.
I think my wife spotted, and she said, because obviously she wanted more than anything for him to be caught out. But my wife actually saw, and I don't know if this is true or not, but she thought she saw her, when she was doing the mic, her purposefully untucked the front of his shirt. Like when he was doing the mic, she like pulled his shirt a little bit, like as a clever tactic, where they're thinking like, he's a man of a certain stature. He's there. He's going to want to tuck his shirt back in, and he's an old man. He's got a big belly. Like, you want to tuck your shirt in. The easiest way to do that is to lie down, tuck your shirt in. And she said, like, she set him up. She untucked his shirt when she was doing the mic, and he's like, "Oh, I got to tuck my shirt back in." And then the second he does that, Borat was running.
And he definitely did look like the lean back that he did looked like a strategic. Like he was doing it. Not like laying back like comfy. It was definitely like a reaching.
To me, it looked like it was what he said it was, and he was trying to just like fix his shirt after the mic was pulled up, whatever. Where in the back of his mind, it was still at the same time. If he's doing this slowly and long enough, and she turned around, like a lot of guys think. It's like, well, maybe if I'm doing this long enough, she's going to turn around and say, like, "Hey, would you like a Hummer?" And he was, sure. I'm thinking he was just kind of like putting himself in that position. If she proposed to him, he would have said yes. I think if she proposed to him, he would have said yes. But
I don't doubt that.
It was very much in the vein of, no, I was just either tucking my shirt in or pulling the mic cable out or whatever it was, because it really didn't look suggestive to me at all what he was doing.
He asked for her name and number because, and again, this is a man, not only do you want to be super like discreet about this sort of thing. If he's decided in his head that he's going to try and fuck her, you want to be as discreet as possible about this.
Right.
I.e., like, you've been trained. When you're the mayor of New York, you go through security briefings. You've been trained about things. He should know at the most base level that the only way you can be sure a secure area is if it's an area that you and your team have secured. If you go into somebody else's area, it's her room, you've no idea what's going on there. If you want to like screw someone and you don't want to believe that they're filming it or taping it, you buy the room and you invite them to the room,
right?
And you make sure they don't bring anything with them. The second you go to their room, you're asking for trouble. So I don't think he would be dumb enough to do that.
I did see
of a certain age.
I did see something though that said Sacha Baron Cohen said that Giuliani's security swept the room, and Sacha Baron Cohen was hiding in a
closet,
like an armoire.
Yeah.
That locked from the inside, and he said they swept the room but didn't realize he was in that armoire.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Now, granted, that was like the room off of the room where they did the interview, so they still, it wasn't like, to your point, Sean, it wasn't like their own thing that they had set up. It wasn't like their own place, but he did have his like security guys look at it.
Yeah, a man of a certain age to what he is, if he was planning to have an illicit affair with her, he needs time to
Right.
go get his little blue pill to pop
Right.
a couple of hours before he turns up. Giuliani can't just go into some side room with a young girl and get it up.
Right.
No, he's pushing 80, isn't he?
Yes, he's like 78.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
way.
No. And like I said, I think it's much ado about nothing. The whole playing with himself thing. I really do. And like you said, Sean, like much like Emily, I was like, ooh, I was really like looking forward to some like salacious shit. But when I saw it, I was like, you know what? No.
I think overall he just kind of comes off as like a creepy old man.
Yes.
But not in any way worse than like just a creepy old man. That like,
I mean,
ha ha ha. Like he did so many times in an interview, like ha ha, and he like touched her. Like, and it was like, you don't need to laugh and like touch your shoulder.
No, right.
You really don't.
Exactly.
But men of that age, or not all of them, but there are a lot of men of that age, that is just how they are. Especially with like a pretty young woman.
You could do exactly the same thing with Biden. That's the hilarious thing, is that they love to say the same about Biden.
Yeah.
Same shit.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? You're right. And I mean, it leads to the whole, well, you're an old man and there's a young woman interviewing. You can chuckle and maybe even flirt a little bit. But the minute you start touching and it's like this is creepy. You stop. You know, like a flirt. When an old man flirts with you, it's kind of like a fun thing. But once he starts touching you repeatedly, now you're a creep factor. Now you're definitely getting up there. So, like I said, was he creepy? He was super creepy. I really thought he was super creepy. And it was very cringeworthy, just him in that encounter. Do I think he was playing with himself? No, I don't think he was playing with himself. Like Sean said, he would need to pop that pill hours before. And no.
The worst thing is the idea that he has some sort of strange deluded arrogance to believe that some young foreign woman would believe that he is her hero. Like, What the fuck has Rudy Giuliani done for someone of her? Like, she wasn't even born when 9/11 happened. That's basically the only thing he ever did that was
exactly. Right, because technically she
already hated the mafia. Like, what the fuck?
Because technically she's 15 years old, so you're absolutely right. She was born in freaking 2005, and he's nobody in 2005. And before she's even aware of who somebody is, it's 2015. He's fucking nobody again. So, I think that whole scene was much ado about nothing. Although I think Borat running in freaking drag and doing a whole little litany was hilarious. Like, no, don't take her. She's 15. Take me. My behind vagina is really tight. I was in prison. And
he goes,
laughing.
He goes, she's 15. She's too old for you.
All of that, and him as a sound man talking about like, stick to your cousins. I mean, all of that shit was just hilarious. And then in the end, Borat basically appreciates that he loves his daughter more than his sons. And then he go back to Kazakhstan, and she's the number 3 reporter in Kazakhstan, and he's the number 4 reporter in Kazakhstan. And what they importantly find is that Kazakhstan spread COVID all over the world with Borat. By injecting him, the gypsy tears was COVID-19, and they tried to infect the whole world. And we mentioned him. He went and got a cell phone, and he didn't know what a cell phone was, and his buddy Brian showed him what a cell phone was. And that's how he framed the premier of Kazakhstan.
That guy was great as well. I love that guy.
But he went back, and because he should have gotten killed, he should have been executed when he returned to Kazakhstan.
Right.
And he gets back, and they were like, no, it's all right. And he's like, what? Why is it all right? And then it turns out it's because they really were just using him to spread the COVID. Now, this is a behind-the-scenes discussion more than a plot discussion. I don't know if you guys notice this, but those scenes, the end scene when he's back in Kazakhstan talking to the the head guy in Kazakhstan, is it just me? Or did it look like Borat and Tutar were like hyperimposed into that scene? Like it looked like they were added in with like CG or something. Like something was not right in that scene, right?
Yeah, you're right. I've felt
And the only
same.
thing I can think,
I
I don't know.
so.
I don't know. Go back and watch it because I really think like
we said
something is
the
off.
same thing. It looked like green screen. It was weird.
Yeah. You know what I think it is? Because like we talked about when the movie was coming out and we all watched the trailer and we had for our listeners, we've probably said this before, but our group text with all three of us talking about what we're going to do for our next podcast. And we were talking about doing a Borat podcast. I said, do you think he started shooting this before COVID? Or do you think like he was shooting it and COVID happened and Sean texted back and was like, I'm pretty sure COVID was just a happy accident for him. So what I'm wondering is, was that never the intended ending of the movie? And then kind of last minute, they put this in as the ending because they were never anticipating. I have to assume they started production on this movie long before COVID was a thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I
wonder if that was like they rushed to get that in at the end.
Maybe.
I thought it was a great ending for it, though.
I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, the way they tied it all up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We missed one thing though.
What's that?
One key scene, which was one of the most cringeworthy scenes of all, when he went to the synagogue.
Oh my God! Yes, that was. And I remember sitting there as it was happening and just repeatedly saying, why would you do this to your own people? This is so awful. He dressed up as a devil with bat wings and a Pinocchio nose with a marionette puppet attached to a string that said media on it. It was the most vile description of Jews. And there were two women in the synagogue. And one woman was a Holocaust survivor because they showed her she was born in 1932, which means during the Holocaust she would have been freaking 8. And they talked to him, and they welcomed him, and they kissed him on the cheek, and they gave him soup, and the whole thing was super sweet. Because one of the subplots was that the Holocaust never happened. That was on the internet. They found that the Holocaust never happened,
and that was your point earlier, Sacha Baron Cohen being so like about how Facebook and social media spreads lies. He saw it on Facebook that the Holocaust didn't happen, and he immediately just believed it just because he saw it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and he was sad about it because one of Kazakhstan's greatest achievements was the Holocaust.
It's fucking awful.
Which is almost the worst part as far as Kazakhstan goes, if they're watching it. Like,
so earlier when we were talking about the dance scene, when the daughter has her moon blood, and I said it was the most cringeworthy thing. I said, like, actually maybe tied for the most cringeworthy thing. The reason why I said that was because of this scene.
Yeah.
And just for the fact that he did that. Like, I think there were some joke, like the nose things here and there. Like, you're talking comedy, like, okay. Like, there was some funny stuff, like offensive, but like, you can be pretty offensive and I'll still find it funny, me personally.
Right, yeah.
This though, I was like, I don't know any reason why you did this.
No.
Like, I don't see. And the only thing, the one takeaway, the thing I do take away from it though, is those two women and how beautiful and how gracious they were to whoever this lunatic was that came in, like saying that Jews were the devil. And she said, I'm not, you're not going to burn. You're not going to die. Let me give you a hug. And she hugged him like that. So if for nothing else, we got that scene out of it, like if that's what he was trying to get out of it and to show that, then okay, power to him.
Didn't you read the news story about this?
No, I don't think it's...
this was the one big news story I read, or at least because my wife was my wife, she
very
is
sexy. My wife, number 4 prostitute in all of Ringwood.
She is a Jew. I'm not. No.
Oh my God, Emily can't hear this episode.
No. No. I was.
Shut it. You've had too many Elijah Craig.
Oh yeah. But yeah, there was a story. The family, the estate of the Holocaust survivor woman, tried to sue the movie studio because she actually died.
Yes.
She's dead now. She died like a month after the film was filmed.
Right.
And
she was pushing almost 100, for God's sake.
Yeah. They say that,
she was in great shape,
she didn't know what was going on, and that it was, she's been duped into this movie and it's disrespectful. And obviously all the things you would think if you are the family of this recently deceased woman and you're watching this. But they came back because, they always have, they're very careful with this. And they even had footage. We haven't seen it, but it was released and they won the case. Like the studio and Sacha Baron Cohen won the case against them. Well, it wasn't against them, but in defense, they knew what was going on. It's the only time he's ever he's broken character and he's actually explained what's going on before they did it. He, out of respect for her and for the situation, he actually came out and said before the filming, they thought they were going into it and whatever. And before he dressed up and did the thing, he came out and said, "My name's Sacha. I'm a Jewish comedian and we're making this movie. And the purpose of it is to try and, we're trying to subvert anti-Semitism and people that are this and the other. So I'm playing this character that's anti-Semitic, but I myself am Jewish and I'm a comedian. And we're doing this as like a parody. So I just wanted to let you know." And they were like, "Oh, okay." And they filmed this. They have this on film of him explaining this to her, so she's fully aware. And he did that out of respect for her, and he did not want to put her in that position. So from the off, she's in. That makes
it much less.
And honestly,
that's the right thing to have done.
It felt that way. Honestly, it felt that way.
Yeah,
it felt like he was just. It felt like he was just trying to show that, like, look, this is just. Look, we're old people, and people will accept you. You're uninformed about what's going on, that kind of stuff. It felt a little staged.
It was, and
honestly, if somebody granted, I'm not, so I can't say anything. But if I were sitting in a synagogue and I were Jewish, and some dude walked in like that, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here, asshole.
And not only that, I think it was inappropriate because it's also terrifying. Like, there are people walking in synagogues and shooting women.
Well, that was part of wasn't that the thing in the movie? Wasn't that what happened in the movie? He wanted to die because he was sad his daughter left. So he was like, "I'm just going to go hang out in the synagogue till the next shooting."
Yeah.
That was it.
That was the plot point in the movie, you get the point that he's trying to hit here, but
I think for the point of the movie, like the dramatic device of how they used it would have been more intelligent and would have mattered more and been more relevant if, like we said earlier, he'd have instead of used that with Trump people, and if instead of those old Jewish women, it was Trump voters. And he did something and was ridiculous or terrible or something that sort of super offended them or whatever. And instead they were like, "No, it's fine. We love you," or whatever. And that would have been a nice moment of oh, like I said, I think that's what's missing, is to show that other side of, that would have been but
like I said, I think that's where the thing with the guys were that took him in off the street.
Yeah, but it was still done with a fart joke on the end sort of thing. It was slightly, you're right, it did tease they're nice, but he couldn't help himself, which is what's so hard, because I think as Democrats or liberals, we have this stigma, this stereotype of we're nice, we're genuine, we want to be good to people, we want to give them the time of day, but we will have the last word, and thank you very much, you're a fucking idiot, goodbye.
Yeah.
It's always with that tint of that. You have completely, you're entitled to that opinion because you're human. We're all humans, but you're a fucking idiot. Goodbye. Like that. I feel like that's what he did and was always doing that. Even if he was like, yeah, they're good people, but they're also fucking idiots. You can't help but kind of do that little extra nail in, which is never gonna.
Right.
You know, so it would have been nice to have a little bit of a, but I don't know. Maybe it's the wrong time. Like post-election, maybe we can have more of that because we'll need to actually. Like if you're talking about the country healing and coming together, you are going to need a lot more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, gents. So, do we review Elijah Craig first, or do we figure out what's going on here with the Borat Subsequent Moviefilm?
I say we do Borat. We're on a roll with Borat.
All right. So what do we go?
I'll pour myself just a little touch more of this while we do that.
Oh, I'm down to the Craig. Do you see this?
Damn, Tomo.
Jesus.
I at least got through the Elijah.
God, you guys are such rookies. God damn.
All right, you got.
And I lost 40 pounds. What the fuck is yours?
I wasn't going with weight. I was going with height. I was going to say you got 6 inches on me vertically.
Whoa. Yo.
As it was coming out of my mouth, I knew I shouldn't say this here.
Hello, Gabby. I likes.
You don't say her name.
I likes. I go to Wild Ostrich Festival. I likes. Okay. All right. So, what do we think is going on with the Borat movie, gents?
Who starts?
You know what? I'll start. I think he and Sean pointed it out, and I think we've all pointed it out on several occasions. He definitely has a lean to the movie and where he's trying to point it to politically. Very obviously, because he very obviously tried to release it before the election to show, I guess, the unreasonableness of the conservative people in the U.S., but at the same time, what came across was that some of it felt contrived, and some of it felt like these people aren't as bad as the people on the left would like to think they are. So, in the end, I think the Borat movie honestly will make no difference whatsoever to the election one way or another. And I think if he was trying to make it a difference maker, it failed miserably that way. And full disclosure, I'm somebody who leans way more to the left than center, and forget about the right. Even though I have certain right leanings, because I believe in the death penalty for sure.
Savage.
You know what? Certain people just deserve to die. Fuck them. And I'll be happy to pull the trigger.
We're all going to die. So there you go. You win.
There you go.
Everyone dies.
So, but in terms of that, I think his movie is not going to have the impact that he thinks it should have had.
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Like I said, the more I talked about it, the more I was like, oh, I feel a little cheated because he's so clever. He's a genius. I think he's a brilliant, brilliant comedian. And I also think he's also kind of I think what's really happened with this movie is he kind of painted himself into a corner. Like he sort of, it was so successful, the first movie.
Right.
He's really pushed himself into a place where it's like, oh shit, I can't. He has some very good. Did you ever see? He did a TV show that came out last year called "This Is America." It was on Lifetime, I think. It was a weird network that it was on, but it was like a sketch show. But it was basically like Borat. It was like there were some sketches isolated, but then there was a lot of in-person, like in the public, and it was all in disguises, like disguises he was doing here. It was all those disguises,
right?
And it was the same sort of thing. Look at these people, how stupid they are. But he had a variety of different characters. He didn't do one. And he had one, I was just looking it up, one of his characters is called Dr. Naira Kane de Negocello. Dr. Naira, who's a progressive lecturer of gender studies and a democratic activist who has a son named Harvey Milk and a daughter named Malala. And he was playing, and he had like an NPR t-shirt on and always had his legs crossed and was always very sort of like, yeah, and was very much like Jewish and was always like, and he would go to talk to people and he would be ridiculous, but because he was a completely lefty Democrat and all sort of like, you know, like, well, of course I only drink breast milk now. Is that breast? Or like, it was, and it was really funny because it was great. And I wish there was more of that. It would almost be a funny spin. And I wish they'd have had the balls to do it in this one, but I get it. You could do a third Borat movie well, if you flipped it and Borat became liberal, like a super liberal like guy, and the ridiculousness was how incredible liberal he was, and he was, instead of making fun of like going to like yoga retreats and all the crazy ridiculous liberal stuff of, because as the amount of crazy conservative things there are in the US, I would argue there are way more Gwyneth Paltrow style mad shit left,
as we know,
things than there are of the other. Like California, all these places are fucking havens for lunatics. Like and that deserves to get the shit taken out of it. And that would have been nice if he'd have had a little bit of that. I just think the studio and the money got in the way a little bit. I think they were kind of pushed into a place where they're like, you're like, oh, you know, you have to really do more of that, like Jews and gypsies and all the same. There's awkward because there's a place, from a comedy standpoint, you get into a really awkward place where you feel like they're laughing for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And there's parts of Borat initially where you're like, it doesn't matter. It was so ahead of its time. But now,
right,
it's like, I feel like you get to be part of the problem when there are going to be Republicans or Trump people that will watch this and they will love this movie and they will say it's one of their favorite movies because of all the crazy shit Borat says about the Holocaust, about gypsies and about Jews. They'll be watching that. They'll be watching the scene that we just talked about. Some people, not a lot, some people watch that scene we were talking about in the synagogue and see him walk in there dressed like that, and they will be pissed themselves laughing just because they think it's hilarious.
Right.
That he's showing like what true Jewish people are like.
Right.
And he has allowed that. And by putting it out there, for those people, he's doing that.
It's a little bit of the reason why Dave Chappelle left the Chappelle Show, right? With the third season and reinforcing all the negative racial stereotypes. Where he was like, I'm trying to educate people, but now I feel like I'm just fucking reinforcing every negative stereotype there is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, famously, it was the sketch with the devil and the angel, like constantly talking about, where it was just basically just a little devil, and like the Spanish devil and the black devil, and that was the famous sketch that made him leave the show. Because he was saying, like, somebody was laughing, and he was like, you know, I know the sound of people laughing with me as opposed to the sound of people laughing at me. And much to your point, what you were saying, I completely agree with you. I think that's where it is.
Yeah, I think that happens. That college boy humor is still, there are going to be plenty of people in campuses watching Borat being like, he's so funny. He's saying how it is. And I just think it's like, it's a little dangerous.
Yeah.
It's a little immature when you see that where we're at now. So much of that crowd that are at these rallies are actually there because of movies like Borat.
Yeah.
True, they really are. Like, a couple of guys in a frat house watch Borat, and then the one guy starts laughing crazy at like the running of the Jew, and he's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this is so funny! Look at that fucking shit!" And then a guy he's not met comes from behind and he's like, hey man, you think that's really funny? Like, yeah, that's funny. Like, me and my friends think this is really fucking funny too. We have this club, we're going out next week and we're going to do this shit. You should come along, man. You're pretty cool.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Right.
okay, let's do that. And then before you fucking know it, it's like that times by 10, and that's how this was started. So there's a slight danger with this. It makes me a little uncomfortable. I'm like,
Yeah.
But
make sure you get rid of all your brown shorts and khaki shirts, Sean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want you associated with the Hitler Youth. Okay. Andrew?
I think, so just off of your point, Sean, a little bit, and this is kind of hitting on something you said earlier. I think that you guys still there? You froze on me for a second. Am I still?
We're here.
Oh, good. Okay. I think to an extent you have, like what you said, Sean, but the opposite as well is with folks that are voting for Trump or folks that are Republican that will see this and they will think, okay, here's another celebrity liberal who thinks that all of Americans are stupid and just wants to show that off and say that we're all just like dumb and we're racist and we're this and we're that. And they double down now and are like, you want to tell me I can't vote for Trump because you say I'm racist. I know I'm not. Here's another person trying to tell me that. So I'm going to, you know what I mean? So I think it has the opposite effect, I think, of what he was trying to do. And I don't think he helps his cause by that. And for the same reasons, like you said too, Sean, about like people really doubling down in the negative side of it. As far as the movie goes, I just want to throw this out there. And Sean, I'm curious to hear what you think. But it bothers me a little bit when British people or people in general from another country, not necessarily just British people, try to paint all Americans as dumb. And in this movie, when he spent the entire time in like shitty parts of Texas or wherever else he was, and not in all of America, because if you walked around my neighborhood, you would not be able to find someone who could give you an opinion like what he got out of this movie, and tries to paint that to like the rest of the world or people in the UK or wherever see that as America. That bothers me a little bit. Yes, that is a part of America, but that doesn't paint the whole picture. So I feel, as an American, I feel a little, I feel like it's disingenuous to kind of paint with a broad brush like that. So that bothers me a tiny bit. All of that is to say, like you guys both said, this character and Sacha Baron Cohen in this role is like, at times, comedic gold. And there is some stuff in this sequel that is just so funny and so good. Like, I don't want to take that away from it, because when I started the movie, when I was watching it, I was laughing like crazy for like the first 2.5 minutes. And I can't remember specifically how the movie starts and what he says, but I can remember laughing and laughing and laughing and being like, holy shit. Like, I watched the first Borat movie when it was in theaters in 2006, and I've not seen it since. So I remember it being funny, but I don't remember a lot of the specifics. I'm laughing and I'm laughing as I'm watching this new one and thinking to myself like, oh, now I remember why this is so funny. And then after like a minute and a half, 2 minutes of pure laughter, I get like a just pulled right back. No laughing, no, like, just like one of those cringe moments. I forget what it is in the beginning of the movie. Just some moment that I'm like, oh, that's not even, that I can't even laugh at that. So the whole movie is just a combination of that, of like those moments. It's either pure laughter or just pure cringe. And I think as a comedian, he toes that line pretty well, but he steps over it purposely more times than he needs to. But all in all, I did like the movie. I had a fun time with it. I finished watching it and I thought to myself too, though, I thought like, wow, it was like, I really like did enjoy it. I got a lot of laughs out of it. It was cringeworthy, but then I think back to the original Borat and that was cringeworthy. So what do you expect? But I also had in my head, like, no part of me really cares to rewatch this movie. So like as far as on a film standpoint, there's not really a part of me that's like, this is a great piece of film. It just felt more like a moment in pop culture more than anything. Whereas I think the first one, and maybe it's because it was 14 years ago, I do want to go back and rewatch the first one, but I don't know that I feel that so much with this one. And this one felt more like a YouTube video, a spin-off, something that was released for the time, not so much as it was like an actual film that came out.
Yeah, it felt like one of these COVID specials that
Yeah.
people are doing. Like, we're going to revisit this character for the times we're in, for the benefit of the fact there's election coming up. It felt a little bit like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like I said before, if you go back now, you know, liking Borat, if you go back and watch the original Borat sketches from the Ali G show,
Yeah.
they hold up really well. And it's very different. It's a very different vibe. It's less cruel.
Yeah, and I'd love to see that.
Just clown kind of like it is very different.
I saw a clip on Twitter in the last couple of weeks that I don't remember from the first movie, so I'm thinking maybe it was from the show, where it was like some guy teaching him how to like be polite and like how to sip wine or something. I don't know if you ever saw this, Sean.
Yeah,
but he's like, and so the whole gag is like, the guy's like, you hold the glass like this, and there's a glass on the table, and they're trying to get Borat to pick it up, and he's like, and then you sip like this, and Borat's like, oh, okay, and Borat keeps trying to take the glass out of this guy's hand, and they're like, no, your glass is there, and he's like, so get your glass like this, and he's like, oh, like this, and he goes to grab it again, he's like, no, and it's just this stupid physical comedy that is just so good. And there were moments of that, and I talked about it when we were doing the podcast just now, moments of that in this that I think are so great, but I think they could have done a little bit more with that. Like that in of itself is just really, really good.
Like the lipstick moment, that was one that
was so great.
Yes,
it was just so stupid, and it was so funny.
Exactly.
Especially when you've got real people really reacting, and you just do, or like the thing with the dress, with the case for the dress when she comes out wearing it, and they're like, oh, it looks so nice. Like, just stupid stuff like that is as funny as anything else you can do. Yeah. And the last point I have is I just agree with, you know, what we've all said. I do think, comedically speaking, I think you would have had a longer lasting and a bit of a more nuanced take of our society had it not been so biased. And the bias didn't bother me. It's just that had it not been so biased, and had it really, like we said earlier, taken a real look at all sides of America today, I think it would have made a more lasting impact. And I do think it would be a film that we would want to go back and revisit and say, hey, remember 2020? Like this movie, as cringeworthy as everything else, this will tell you what life was like in America in those days.
It's yes.
And it falls short of that. It does itself, I think, a disservice by not covering the whole spectrum.
Yes. I can't agree more. And it kind of lends to the whole thing we talked about with the Tiger King, where the tragedy wasn't so much about what's her face's husband disappearing, where it was when they showed Joe Exotic's guys that worked for him, and they're eating fucking Walmart dumpster trash. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is the fucking story here, not all the other shit. The fact that we're in the quote unquote greatest country on the planet, and people are eating garbage. That's the fucking story here. Not all this, but like you said, that's where the Borat story kind of fails. Where it should have, and Sean pointed out, it should have gone to a Democratic side where they're so far left-leaning, where they're basically like, no, let's all just get rid of government and just all live happily and eat flowers. And it's like, no, what, are you fucking stupid?
Can you imagine if he'd have got AFC in an interview where he would basically, and it would work. It so would fucking work. And he could lay out, he could like read the Communist Manifesto. He could just like describe Stalin's fucking Russia to her and be like, yes, this would be a dream. And then we do this. And she would be like, yep.
And let me tell you something. Having grown up in a communist country, that would have worked 100% because communism is a utopia. Just totally speaking, communism is a utopia if there's no greed.
Mm.
But the human condition always brings along greed.
Mm.
If everybody's happy with having everybody having the same stuff, you have a utopia.
People aren't equal.
What was it?
I
remember in high school, we had a couple of kids come from Israel and they grew up on a kibbutz and talk about what a kibbutz was. And our teacher, social studies teacher, was Mr. Gutnick, as Jewish a New Yorker as you could possibly get, with a Jew fro and the whole 9 yards. And they're talking about all this stuff, and he was like, "Oh, you're talking about communism." And they're like, "What? No, there's no communism." He was like, "You growing up on a kibbutz, everybody shares equally, that's just sheer communism." And they were freaking out, the two kids. They were like, no, communism is the worst. And it's like, he's like, "No, this is exactly what you're talking about. If everybody's sharing equally, that's what communism is." And they could not fucking reconcile the two. And it was just like, no, this is what it is. Communism is a utopia, but everybody shares equally, like Star Trek. And this is what always kills me. You have all these fucking conservative people, like fans of Star Trek. It's like, this is a communist utopia, Star Trek is. There's no wealth. You don't have to worry about how rich you are. Everybody has everything they need. You have food. You have medical care. Everything is taken care of. This is what communism is. You're just fucking missing it. And everyone, "Oh, no, it's not. No. It's what is it?"
Yeah, and exactly right. They would completely, and to that point, exactly. I think the only reason he didn't do any of that on the other side, mocking the left, and which makes it worse, in my opinion, especially for him as a legitimate comedian or satirist, because as an actor, I get it, is fear. In the end, the reason he didn't do the other side is fear. Right. It stinks of fear that he's worried that if he, it may not be him, it may have been the production company, it may have been his wife, it may have been the people surrounding him. They would say, like, "You will not work again in Hollywood.
Yeah.
If you make the Democrats look like a joke and then we lose the fucking election, you will never work again." And that is fear, and that is weak, and that is kind of shameful if you're, integrity as a comedian or a satirist.
And truth be told, from opinion-wise, if that happened and he went after the Democrats and we lost, he would be thrown as a scapegoat. Because like I said, they're already printing articles about SNL and Jim Carrey fucking making fun of Biden. It's like, how could you not make fun of Biden? It's silly not to make fun of Biden.
Yeah. SNL has done that forever, too. That's just what they do.
Anyway.
But, yeah.
All right.
But no,
gents, Elijah Craig, how are we doing?
Ooh, baby.
What are we talking about? Our straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey, American as can be. 94 proof, 1789 small batch. I think it's delicious after that initial.
Sounds like you're struggling with the words a little bit there, Tomo.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure you said whiskin instead of whiskey.
Straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey.
Baby.
I will go first since these young ingrates have no respect for their elders. Initially, I have to say, I felt a lot worse about this than now. Truth be told, this was a fresh bottle when I opened it. So now it's here. However, the 94 proof kind of kicks you in the teeth right away. But the finish is really smooth. It's really, I want to say, like vanilla toasty notes that are just really, really, really just nice. This drink makes you feel like you're in front of a fireplace, even if you're not.
Beauty of bourbon.
That's what this drink feels like. And we talked about it beforehand when we were trying to think of a purely American drink to get. And we were talking about the Elijah Craig, and Sean brought up the toasted barrels. That's a $115 bottle. If Elijah Craig would love to send us a bottle to sample amongst the three of us, we'd be more than happy to accept it. But right now, we're just going with the 1789. That's the regular batch.
Small batch, baby.
Small batch. I give this drink smooth, great finish, a bit of a kick. And again, I'm coherent 3 hours into this freaking podcast after having almost half of this bloody bottle. I will say...
COVID is weird.
Don't listen to the young punks because they don't know their booze. I will give this Elijah Craig small batch 1789 Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey a 4.2. 4.2, I say. Gents, who's going next? Let's go to Andrew, since he's the bourbon connoisseur amongst us.
All right. I second a lot of what you said. This is a great bourbon. And like I said when we started this podcast, I've had many bourbons. I really have, but I've never had the Elijah Craig. And the Elijah Craig it's not an obscure brand. It's pretty well known. So it's actually strange that I haven't had it. And I'm glad that I finally did.
And in fact, they say that Elijah Craig is the inventor of bourbon.
Okay.
Or at the very least, they say he's the father of bourbon.
Well, God bless him, because we love our bourbon here. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. You guys know this. I just said this a second ago. I'm a big bourbon fan. Never had this before. I really liked it. I think it's got a lot going on. There's plenty of different notes and different flavors as you drink it. It has a really smooth finish. One thing I personally like a smoky, oaky, kind of strong bourbon. And this has all of that, but then it ends, your finish is really smooth. It doesn't necessarily bite you back at the end. So that's, I think, is really great. I'm a little biased because bourbon is my favorite drink. So when we rate anything, if we're drinking a good bourbon, it's going to rate higher than anything else we drink. It just will. And my go-to bourbon is Wild Turkey 101, as you guys know. And when we rated that on the podcast, I gave that a 4.5.
Ooh, yes.
If you remember. And if
I don't remember, but okay.
I did. I gave it a 4.5, and I love my Wild Turkey 101 for all the reasons I'm sure I said on that podcast. If I'm being completely and totally objective and not biased about my love for Wild Turkey 101, the Elijah Craig is definitely as good. The 101 obviously is 101 proof, so it's a little bit stronger, so it has a little bit more bite to it, which I do like. But every once in a while, you don't want all that bite. So if I gave the Wild Turkey 101 a 4.5, then I have to give the Elijah Craig also 4.5.
Ooh, okay. All right, fair enough. Shonifer? What do we think, Shonifer? You're not a whiskey or bourbon guy. Bourbon, I understand, but whiskey, you Irish prat.
Well, last we knew, you were having flashbacks to your younger days, so I'm curious to know how that played out for you.
This is true.
I've been converted to whiskey, or I should say, regular whiskey. I've certainly found my way in there. But
Tullamore Dew, would it be? Would it be Tullamore Dew?
This is racist. and I'm not going to put up with any
No,
more
it's
of this
not racist.
racism.
No, it's not racist.
My
Listen,
whole
you-
life. My
listen.
whole life.
This is one white prick talking to another white prick. There's nothing racist about this.
Yeah, this is probably this is probably got to be one of the biggest differences of drinks that I can think of on the show, because while you have all been drinking your way through the bottle, this is the same glass I poured. I have had like that much Elijah Craig. Like I said at the beginning, I appreciate the smooth finish. I got that, and if the smooth finish was there and that was all I could have, that would be absolutely fine. But the initial bite, the initial hurch of this thing is like, just brings back every time I try it, and I'll try a little sip. I'll be like, and I didn't rush to get ice. Maybe if I used ice, it would be a little bit better. A little bit of water might null that a little bit. It'll be interesting to do, but neat, because I usually like to have anything neat because I want to try and see what it should be like. But every sip I take just tastes like a mouthful of vomit. I feel like I'm heaving. I'm brought back to just that feeling of talking to a girl who I'm not attracted to like 4 hours ago, and I've barely spoken to in like one geography class, but I'm in front of her now and my mouth is sort of half full of sick, and she's like, it's like, yeah, I thought you don't like me, you don't talk to me, and I'm just like, yeah, well, I guess I just was too nervous to talk to you in the past.
Oh my God!
I think you're actually
awful.
pretty. I think you're pretty good looking.
Shut up!
Really.
Just shut up and get back to the drink. Just shut up and get back to the drink.
That's what it's taking me back to. All those girls that had one night where I lied to their face about how I thought that they were attractive.
Oh my God!
Because of Jack Daniels. That's what it's taking me back to. So, so for me, it's almost unmarkable. I feel bad giving it a bad mark because I'm understanding that it's not its fault. It's my fault. It's not. Okay. It's not him. It's me.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't know. I feel like I just have to like NA this because I feel bad because it's really undrinkable for me. But that's.
Wow. Undrinkable.
Right now. Like I said,
0.0?
If I did something, I don't know. If I added some...
Give him a disqualified. He's disqualified.
A 0.0. You're giving it a 0.0. You're giving it the worst drink ever.
I'm trying to... I mean...
We said NA, not applicable.
Technically...
No. There's no fucking pussying out of this.
Yeah, technically,
you gotta give it a grade.
Technically, JD, Jack Daniels, would be worse because that was the very drink that this is making me think of.
Okay.
So I guess it's better than that because it's not that. Okay. So I guess I say it's a 0.7.
Wow.
Wait a minute.
Okay, so... let me just point out what a fucking communist son of a bitch this show is. Wow. A straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey, and he's giving it a 0.7.
The stupid fucking Americans in here. There you go. See how that tastes. See how you like it. Just another British guy showing you up for the joke as you all are.
You can't handle bourbon. You British.
No. It's not good. It tastes like fire piss.
US of A.
Why it tastes like
you know what? That's why this show is what it is. And you have reasonable people on the show.
The last time we had a rating this low on the show, if my guesstimate is correct, looking at the sheet you put together, Tomo, was when I guested on the show several years ago, and we drank Bud Light and Coors Light.
No, technically, I think it was when our friends Amy and Angela were on the show, and we had fruit wine, which was god-awful.
Oh, yeah?
And, let's see. I believe... Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, we had a 0.3.
0.3?
Yeah.
What the shit?
Oh, I don't.
We had a 0.3.
Is it on the list?
Yeah, it is. Episode 10. 0.3. Episode 10. It was a blueberry wine. It was god-awful.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I was pretty much in agreement with that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But when I guessed it years ago, it was still after that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally off here.
Yeah.
All right. So there we go, folks. So we got a 4.2 and a 4.5 and a communist 0.7.
I would drink a gallon of Bud Light over.
No.
No.
You would not.
No.
You would not.
Wait. Sorry, guys. We missed something. We always do, as regular listeners will know. We do a fuck that guy section.
Yes,
So for tonight's show, fuck that guy is
Right
Sean
there.
Quigley, aka
Sean
the
Quigley.
Quig,
Fuck the Quig.
for taking this amazing bourbon and giving it that and saying all that he's
How could he fucking give that a
fuck guy.
0.7?
Love you,
know
Sean,
what?
but
Yeah.
fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. I have to agree with Andrew. My fuck that guy category this week is this fucking middle-aged pudgy motherfucker from England that desires Irishman. Fuck him, who fucking goes off and says he drinks Bud Light rather than this. Fuck him.
The rating was one thing, but once you brought Bud Light into it,
No, yeah, I did.
fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. Thank you, Andrew, for bringing that back up again. All right, folks. There we go. That's episode 87. We have Borat. We have Andrew. We have the Quig. And we have Fuck That Quig. And good night, folks.